See how it goes? Okay, does everyone want to introduce themselves so the chat knows who you are, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, who's going first?
Elle, you go first.
Oh, hi. My name's Vegan Gaze. I do vegan videos. I talk about like vegan ethics mainly, and I do debates and short form videos quite often. That's basically it.
Perfect. Love it. VPM?
Catherine, you next.
Oh,
Sure. VPM, Virtue Postmortem on YouTube and everywhere else. I also create vegan propaganda as much as I possibly can.
love it.
I'm Catherine. I have Elle and I go way back. I have a channel where it was mostly dedicated to animal rights and like politics, but I recently started a new channel which I'm trying to grow about degrowth. So that's called Degrowth Diaries.
What does that mean, degrowth?
Like economic degrowth for climate justice.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Okay, great. And then obviously, I'm Brittany. I assume if you put this on your stream, if you're your channel, if you want. And I have been plant-based for 1.5 years. And I did it after doing a 30-day vegan challenge, which I understand. You can't be vegan for 30 days and come back. I get it. But I did this 30-day challenge thinking it was just like a fun, trendy event. But something intuitively told me that I might not come back from it. Because I remember telling my partner, like, there's a chance I don't come back from this. I don't know why exactly, but I have a feeling. So sometimes I have this intuitive understanding of myself. And so I have a feeling I probably subconsciously went on this journey because I was starting to question maybe my direct responsibility for violence. And I'm always trying to harm reduce. So that's where I've been. And I wanted to talk to Elle, and then obviously, actually, Catherine, I've been wanting to talk to you, but I couldn't find a way to contact you exactly. So I'm really excited about this. And then having any vegan voice who knows what they're talking about in this sphere is always great. So VPM, thank you for being here. I mostly have literal questions. And so I'm hoping you guys can help me deconstruct my thoughts around veganism and ethics. And that's really why I asked you to be here. Does anyone have anything to say, though, before we get into that? I'm not sure how we imagine the structure of this convo going.
Yeah, I was going to say for the structure of the convo, I watched your debate review of my debate with that person. And I just want to say quickly, thank you for doing that because, yeah, I think sometimes it's kind of perplexing to me when people, like, there were people in your comment section like, oh, she didn't seek them out. She just like offered them a debate. They came and then they're like, oh, I don't have an argument. I haven't thought my argument through and I'm not going to change. So there's no open-mindedness either. So it's kind of like, why are you here? And that is partially why I do record the debates, because otherwise it does end up with genuinely wasted time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I appreciate that. And I think for the structure of the conversation, and I'm sure that when you're talking about these questions you want to ask, the thing that was pertinent there was that you were saying, you know, I should view people who aren't vegan a specific way and I don't. So I really do want to delve into that because it is intriguing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that's actually,
go ahead, please.
sorry.
Please.
I was going to say that's how I got kind of looped into this conversation was I had discovered your channel, Brittany, like literally 2 days prior to this. not to this, but to when you released your debate breakdown with Elle. And I remember seeing that thumbnail and getting like really excited because I was like, wait a second, like this is like Elle, I've known Elle for so long and obviously her channel is like smaller. So like the fact that like I had just discovered your channel and then I saw that you were reviewing her debate and I was like, oh my God. And then I started listening to it and I got to that point where you said that you were like, I'm there logically, but I'm not there emotionally. And like, I remember thinking like, oh my God, like there's so many things I want to say. And so I like messaged Elle and I was like, yo, like, can I join this conversation? So
I love that. That made me so happy because my audience had been too asking about you and just like, who are you reaching out to? Like, who have you found? And we had watched one of your videos of you interviewing a Black vegan about her journey. And that's what we want to see. We want to see like people of color. We want to see the intersection between racism and veganism. We want to see us talking about the economy. Like for me and my work at least, we just know there's so much going on. That's why I think I was attracted to like once Elle popped the bubble for me of like veganism as a philosophical framework, I was like, wait, I love philosophy. Like I was just under this impression that it was really like what you eat or maybe for the animals or maybe for this, but it's really just made me go through such a forgive me, journey. You know,
No, it's okay. If you use journey to getting to veganism, cool.
okay,
If you're
that's okay.
talking about your journey out of veganism
It's-
because that's when we have a problem.
Perfect. And I think you left me a comment, didn't you, on my second
Yeah,
channel?
yeah.
Yeah. And by the way,
Wait,
like that,
so
yeah.
was it EA that you saw that interview I did? Was it EA?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that's exactly,
Cool. She's
yes.
super cool. I've actually met her in person.
Yes. That
that's
was a
awesome.
great conversation. That is
That's an old
exactly
video.
Yeah, it was an old, and I even told my chat, I was like, I think this video is like 5 years old, but it's exactly what I'm looking for. When
Yeah.
we talk about, because Elle does such a great job at debating people, but I think she also does a really good job at keeping people focused on veganism. Versus, I would have been like, this one. I would have distracted us all the way around the whole circle. Everything connect, but I love that. That's the focus. So that's why I want to focus today on. It's in my head. I feel like materially, you could call me a vegan. I mean, my family does. So like, Brittany's vegan now. I was like, well, technically, it's a philosophy, so I don't know what I am yet. But I buy cruelty free. I make sure everything says vegan if I can. I mean, like I literally will not buy things if it doesn't say vegan to the best of my ability, unless I make a mistake. I'm eating plant based. Even my partner has reduced like their meat consumption by like 70%. It's insane. So like we went into this marriage being meat eaters, making my own beef jerky. So there's a lot that's been happening, and I have a very supportive partner, very supportive in-laws, very supportive family. So nobody in my life is keeping me from being vegan, even though they aren't. But there's that click that's not happening for me yet that I'm wondering, what's missing, or am I vegan even if I don't have that click? Or like, what is it? Because I feel, especially because I'm a medium or a smaller channel, but I have a duty, I think, to be careful about what I say out loud. And I don't need Elle or anybody else to make a Brittany Simon's no longer vegan video, but I want to do it right. And, every time I watch these people stop being vegan, I just start yelling at the screen, like, how'd you not know what you were like walking into? Like, for me, it feels so obvious what people mean now, but now I wonder what it's like to be vegan for 10 years and then say like, oh, I'm not vegan. Like, what? Like, what are they? I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have any thoughts on that initially? And then we can kind of.
Do you guys want to go? Because I will. I'll pitch in at the end, I think.
Sure. Yeah. So because veganism is like stems from an ethical stance, then somebody indeed can have like either not hold the ethical stance, or like hold it very weakly and then apply it. And I think in many cases, even in cases when ex-vegans were actually like they're into it for the ethics, it's possible that their stance was just like too weak to not be upheld throughout, right? Like, because for instance, my stance is so strong. I'm so convinced that veganism is the right moral stance that even if I found myself in like a health issue that was definitely everybody was saying you must eat animal products, I would probably go for like an animal that isn't sentient or less likely to be sentient, right? To continue applying my ethical position. Whereas the ex-vegans, they just like straight up dive into like carnivore dieting or like buy like non-vegan rugs and shit like that. So it's very clear then that they just like maybe didn't have the ideology strong enough or didn't hold it at all in the first place. So I actually kind of commend you for being so diligent about not calling yourself vegan. I don't know, I suppose like, though, if that was like the case, that you shouldn't call yourself vegan until everything totally clicks, then maybe for the first 4 years of my veganism, I wasn't vegan. I don't know, because there are some things that I didn't have like strong or even correct stances on. Just like had like huge misunderstandings, both about nutrition, sentience, had no idea what it is. I was just like heuristic, don't eat animals, don't use animals, heuristic straight up, and that's it. And so therefore, I don't know. I guess it's a hard question.
No, but that's a great answer. Like, especially the medical parts are the medical part is so important because I think people do have this idea that if you're, and maybe this is the issue is like, if I label myself a vegan, and maybe it's because I am a public figure, because I think in my private life, like I do make like, oh, I'm vegan. So like, but like, you know, publicly, there's like such a responsibility to the movement and such a responsibility to people. And so I feel a little bit hesitant because I'm waiting for that click for me to be like, oh, I'm locked in. I get it. But at the same time, you know, I think your story makes sense to me because maybe I could become like a vegan who debates other vegans about what is vegan, but like I don't want to do that either necessarily. You know what I mean? But I think that's always the question that comes up, like, what if I get sick, or what if I am lost in the desert, but from my understanding of vegan philosophy, they understand there are exceptions, but the exceptions are dependent on the person. So like if I was lost in the desert, maybe I wouldn't eat an animal, but maybe we wouldn't fault a person for doing that in the same way that like there are weird circumstances. So then in that case, I guess like I am a vegan, you know what I mean? But maybe I'm being too literal about the click.
Yeah, I have kind of maybe Elle and I disagree somewhat on this, but I made a video called In Defense of Bad Vegans, and I was basically arguing that like you can be like, I don't care if you call yourself a vegan if you're like 90% vegan, because the identity, like identifying as a vegan, like holds so much like in our habit formation and stuff. Like if you stop identifying as a vegan, you're gonna start slipping, and then like everything goes like but if you identify as a vegan and then you aren't perfect and you have this like I have a lot of people in my life, like my brother, my sister, that call themselves vegan, but like from my position, like I wouldn't say that they're fully vegan. They're like more like mostly flexible vegan. Like I don't do you get what I'm saying?
What's the missing component? Like what are they doing
like,
that
Yeah. So for example, my sister eats backyard eggs sometimes. And like I don't think that's vegan. I wouldn't say that's vegan, but like the fact that she calls herself vegan, I'm like, I'll just let her have it. Like
it's a baby, bro.
it keeps her like there, you know what I mean? And then
yeah, I know. I would just cut in and say, like, in theory, I completely disagree. In application, I understand, but debate me, bro.
I'm just not precious about the label that other people choose for themselves. What I have a problem with like ex-vegans is when they like start promoting pseudoscientific bullshit about health and nutrition, and like spreading misinformation, claiming that they need animal products to be healthy, and like there's literally no evidence that that's the case.
Sure.
And then they just like completely abandon like their ethics and like but sorry, I'm kind of all over the place.
Well, no, that reminds me of when we talk about racism, this is like we always say like it's not enough not to be racist, you have to be anti-racist. I feel like that's kind of the vibe of veganism for me, where it's like I don't want to just be like, I kind of do want to have the right amount of like, you know, like slight gay judgment of like, why are you eating that animal unnecessarily attitude a little bit, only because I feel like it consistently makes sense with how I'm viewing the ethics around value. Like my cat, Indiana, she's on her hospice days. She's on her end of life journey. And I just keep, you know, we're looking up all these like funeral things, and people are like, oh, you could keep her tail or keep her paw or keep it. I'm like, I don't want her body parts in my house. Like, you guys are doing this thing where it's like, you want me to transform my animal through capitalism into this like, I don't know, this like thing I keep around instead of like honoring her life and letting her go. Like I have this very rejecting keeping parts of her around the house. But that idea is connected to veganism for me because it's about valuing like the animal. Because I grew up in an area where I thought I was going to have a cow on my wall. Like I thought I was going to have antlers in my house. Like I thought I was going to slaughter my own animals on a farm at one point in my life. And now I'm like, why would I do that? You know what I mean? Why would I do that? But that's because of this journey. So I can see you know, and by the way, on this journey, 2 of my siblings have put more plant-based eating into their diet. So that's exciting. But they said to me, I'm about to have a really hard week at work, so I'm probably not going to go vegan this week. I was like, well, okay, like that's fine. But like, you know, and I get it. So I think for me, maybe it's my black and white, maybe it's my philosophy thinking. I do want to be the kind of vegan, if I am a vegan, that has like a strong ethical stance that says, I accept you're on that part of your journey and you're not there yet. Even getting out of racist thought is a journey, but I still have to
But
call you
you're
out.
never like with racism, for example,
Mhm.
if you're an anti-racist, like I would consider myself to be,
Sure.
like it's a lifelong learning journey. Like I'm sure there are certain things that I still
Sure.
like am not educated about. But the fact that like like want to be anti-racist, like
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of overlap, especially with if you think of like the vegan boycott aspect of it. Like I also try to boycott other things that affect humans, like I avoid fast fashion, for
Yeah,
example.
great.
But like nobody like is saying, oh, you're not you can't call yourself like a leftist if you ever buy something from Target. Like
For
that's
sure.
not like, oh, like you're no longer a leftist. You can't identify as a leftist yet because you're not like completely aligned and like all of your behavior is like perfect. Like I just feel like we can hold these principles, and it sounds like you are there in terms of holding the principles. It's just that you feel like you don't yet hold the same like level of judgment towards others.
Yeah.
Is that
Mm.
correct?
Yeah.
I would like to like, sorry, you go on. I
Well-
will extend on that.
Yeah, there's this one vegan guy I see on TikTok that I hate every time I see him because he's so judgy and I don't want to be that. Like when I see him, I'm like, no. And he'll be like, no animal product under any circumstances, you're not a vegan. I'm like, girl, she had honey one time, chill. And then that attitude comes out where I'm like, relax. But then principally, like, I don't ever want to be that person in my content. But I want to say like you did a racism or you did a homophobia or you did a non-vegan. And I accept that we will make these mistakes. We will buy a non-vegan product and be like, fuck. Like we will do things and be like, I'm so sorry, guys. Was that a misogyny? I'm so sorry. Like, and then we'll take it, you know, we'll do our thing. That I still think we would be vegan if you accidentally, but to on purpose engage with like eating an animal to me feels less vegan and more like harm reduction, plant-based eating, which is also valid. So then I'm like, okay, that's my thought there. But I don't know. I don't want to be judgy. I want to have the discernment to say I'm consistent with my values. Like I don't want to be a Catholic that doesn't go to church, but I'm like a Catholic. Like, girl, you're not a Catholic. You don't go to church. You know, I see a lot of that on the internet. There's a lot of grifters, and I'm not trying to be a grifter. You know what I mean? Elle, do you want to extend
I
that?
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that's the thing. Like, if you adhere to an ethic, I it might be the way I'm wired, but I do think so. I'll try and steer away from this, but I do think, you know, you can have those conversations and be like, oh, you did a misogyny, you did this, or that you did something non-vegan, and then make that mistake, and someone's still vegan. You know, they thought they were adhering to an ethic and everything like that. But to steer it to the kind of judgment and how you see people, I think even vegans will view specific actions, maybe not even like, say philosophically, I view kicking a cat and kicking a pig the same. They're both equally bad to me. However, so in the news in the UK, there was a footballer who kicked a cat. There was a person who she put a cat in a bin, and even a vegan may view that action not necessarily morally worse, but they may put more credence in it being a thing to focus on, because a lot of the time people haven't thought through their ethics, so they fall back on social norms and adhering to those. So if they don't adhere to social norms, when a social norm, say if you're in the UK, for example, we're a nation of dog and cat lovers, if you are doing an action that's clearly not loving to a cat, even though philosophically it's morally equally bad, in fact, it's morally worse what people do to pigs on a regular basis, people may focus on that a bit more, and that's actually understandable in my view, because of, you don't know unless you have a deep conversation with someone how deeply they've gone into their own ethics. A lot of the time they're just validating and adhering to a social norm. So that's the thing, like veganism is not the social norm. The norm is animal exploitation. So it's abundant, it's rampant, to the point where I can see why someone might view an action as more normal because it then feels okay. You know what I mean? It's like, here's a good example I was thinking of when I was listening to your debate review. So I was bullied at school for being gay, right? And bullying is bad. We all know like bullying is bad, but socially normal for kids to just bully each other, right? But even kids understand that like bullying people for like something else that wasn't like homophobia was just rife in my school. Something like, say, God, like a terminal illness. You're still bullying them, and you're still bullying them for something that's so like horrible to bully them for. But even kids understand that if you bully like a kid who's like terminally ill, like that's disgusting. Like, and the way that people, I remember a kid doing that actually. And the way I saw him versus even people who were homophobically bullying me, it was quite different. Now, were those actions similar? I wouldn't know how you'd weigh them up, right? But yeah, I think we do fall on social norms to kind of understand not just bad action, but bad person. And that's when it becomes a different conversation, because I think we want to look at people as good, bad people. But then other people want to extrapolate action. And I think you do that more. You look at the actions, but people are more using identifiers and stuff like that to work it all out.
Yeah, I think because I've talked to you all about this when we first spoke, that I do think we're evolved animals on a planet, and good and bad are subjective relationships to self, where like I don't make prescriptions personally. Instead, I say, if your goal is this, then your action must be this. So Brittany's goal is to harm reduce any contribution to violence to the best of her ability at any time. There are exceptions, and obviously I do like we all engage in violence on a certain level. So I'm trying to mitigate that harm. It allows me to then look at someone's siblings, to look at my own partner, to look at my family and say, I see the way they're trying to do better. And I love that I'm influencing them on my plant-based journey to be more plant-based. That's so cool. And I acknowledge that they're not vegan, and I acknowledge I'm not vegan. And I acknowledge that like, we don't, but if I was to take the stance of veganism, I don't know if it needs to follow like that I would then have that judgment. Like I do look at someone who's racist and I go, or someone who's homophobic, and I'm like, you know, and at the same time, I do meet them where they're at. That's part of my job as a philosophy YouTuber, is to say people are bigoted for a reason. Can we deconstruct that bigotry, right? So maybe some line of thinking there as it relates to veganism. Is there something similar?
Yeah, I just ask if you two have that same view, like that kicking a cat and kicking a pig would be morally just as bad, but like the way that you'd view that person might be different in terms of like not the bad act, but like, are they a person who's safe to be around if they don't even adhere
eating
to a social
a
norm?
cat versus eating a dog makes more sense, because I feel like people would view kicking a pig as like gratuitous versus like
as something they engage in.
Yeah,
true. Like if we that's better.
But I was thinking like an analogy, something analogous would be BDS. Brittany, do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
the BDS
do you
list,
like judge people the same for like supporting companies that might be like supporting Israel, for example? Because I try to do BDS, but I'm not perfect.
Sure.
But like, would you say that people who try to do BDS but fail in some instances are like not pro-Palestine, like they shouldn't call themselves pro-Palestine? I
wouldn't say they shouldn't call themselves pro-Palestine. I think that's really important that people do say they're pro-Palestine, and I think genocide is the focus here. I do think that I sometimes, like when my friends tell me like, oh, I'm gonna go drink at Starbucks, I go like, you know, I hear that, but also aren't there local coffee shops you can go to? And usually I say that,
right.
You know, I understand. So I might say like, even for myself, I'm not perfect at it either, but I'll say like, is this necessary? Or like, can we do something else? And I tried my best. Like, it's not always as easy, right? I understand. But I think here's the thing. putting a dead animal in my mouth feels very different than my taxes going to a genocide. Because
100%.
you know,
yeah,
so-
I was gonna say it's not perfect and perfectly
but
analogous.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so Brittany personally, I'm very empathetic to where everyone is at. Everyone's on a journey. Life sucks. We're forced into existence. So I philosophically am 100% about meeting people where they are with everything. I think that is separate because that's the external Brittany than the internal Brittany that's having an ethical stance personally where she's not making a prescription. Even if I'm vegan, I'm not telling people to be vegan because I don't tell people to be not racist. I don't tell people not to be homophobic. I say you are homophobic and you are racist. And if you don't want to be, you can change. And that's the difference. So like maybe I could say if I ever became a vegan, maybe I would say I'm vegan. I think if you really love animals, you would be vegan. I think if you really want to stop adding to the destruction of the universe, like in this particular way, it's good for the planet, good for your health, good for animals. Like this is the way I would do it. But so maybe those are two different Britneys because I agree with you. Like as an external Britney, as a community member, people are flawed. People are complicated. They have to come. Even I am not in that embodied state of being a veganism. How could I expect it of somebody else? Right? So does that kind of make sense? Am I conveying that correctly? Like communicating that right?
Can I ask a question? Sorry, a clarifying question. First of all, I just want to understand that. I just want to see if I understood. So you're saying you're not telling people stop being racist. You're telling them you are racist, and if you want, you should probably stop. Well, aren't both of those moral judgments either way?
I am making a moral judgment from my own moral framework. Yes.
But then you tell them what your moral judgment is. In two different ways, right? Let's say world A, you tell them stop being racist. World B, you tell them you are racist and you probably should stop or something like that.
But you should
like,
stop
there are different
because of, right? There's a reason why. Like if they tell me, oh, I don't want to be called a racist, I was like, okay, then stop being racist. So there's a reason, you know, like the why is there. But I don't just, I think most people are racist. I think most people are homophobic. Most people are transphobic. I think like 90% of the population is currently engaging in active racism. So for me, it's the assumption that if I'm talking to someone, I'm like, you're probably racist. Like, you know, so instead I try to live by example and I try to tell them why I choose to deconstruct racism and why I recommend it. But for me to tell the world feels different. Like a prescription feels different, but I do live and advocate for it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me in the sense that when I'm debating people about vegan ethics, we usually get what's a bullet bite. So, you know, I will analogize it to like human beings and say, look, you know, because if they can't find a morally significant difference between humans and other animals that would justify the action. So then I'm like, okay, so would you be in favor of human farms? And if they say yes, it's just like, that's where the debate ends. I'm not going to sit there and try and like encourage them to like, I'm not going to walk them through ethics in that way. So that's kind of where it stops. And then if they want to like contact me and not have that worldview, then that's like totally fine. Like, but that, yeah, as soon as they reveal their worldview and it feels then kind of out of my control if they're going to say like human farms fine, like the debate that, you know, VPM, they and I had, you know, with that homesteader. And it was a 5-minute debate, wasn't it, VPM? And they were like, yeah, human farms. That's kind of what we do to dairy cows.
Yeah,
so
I think
like,
I heard that one. It's just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you're not serious. Like, do you want to change? Do you want to question your worldview? So that's why I say I don't make prescriptions because I'm not about to argue. Like, if you don't know already, you shouldn't judge people by the skin color. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not arguing this with you. Don't be racist, you know? Or like, yeah.
Yeah, I take the opposite stance. And I think in that 5-minute debate, I actually did go into prescription. I told them what you're doing is illogical and suicidal. So
yeah, which is fine, by the way. I think it's okay for people to make prescriptions. I don't find it useful for what I'm doing on the internet personally. But I think it's because I take a radical like acceptance stance of like, the world is a reflection of us as a whole. So like we have to own that we're all contributing to the harm, which is why veganism, very interesting to me. Because I'm like, oh, this is like, when I watch all the documentaries and I was going through all like just reading about it, I was like, oh, this is like perfectly in line with my goals. But then it feels like I'm doing it logically rather than something.
You don't need to do it like if the alternative is emotionally, an animal doesn't care where it's coming from. They just want to be left alone. So we can like, that's why people say, well, I would go vegan, but I don't care. And it's like, you don't need to care. Like, why do you need to care? Like, just like you don't need to, you know, care about individuals in the human context, but leave them alone. I don't need to care about a stranger down the street. I just need to like not punch them in the face if they're in my way. So it's just like,
but how does that relate to it being an ethical stance? Because isn't an ethical stance, in my mind, it's an embodied belief that one has and one lives by.
well, veganism is, I would say it's an applied ethic. So it's how you're behaving. So like I took a while to understand what veganism was. Like I could give you like VPM and I adhere to a very similar vegan definition. Where in the definition it's discussing that it's an applied ethic. I really like, because I know vegans, I've gone stood outside like slaughterhouses with people, and there's one guy and he's like, I really don't feel anything for anyone, but I know I should be here. Like, but in his mind he's like, if it were a kind of thought process, and it is in a way, when you apply an ethic, there has to be a mindset present, but it's not your brain, like your feelings that are doing all the work there. It's also your behavior. So basically the care can be there and it helps, but I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah,
Really?
I can relate to, was it vegan postmortem? When I went vegan, which was in 2013, I still did certain things that me now doesn't view as vegan. Like, when did I really go vegan? It's like, but I think that it's a journey, right? Like when I first went vegan, like I was 18 years old, and like in high school, I had a friend who was vegetarian, and she had like said something about, she watched some PETA video and it made her sad. And I remember thinking, oh, well, I don't care. Like, it doesn't make me sad, so I don't care. And then what made me interested in veganism was the logic of it. I was also a big tree hugger, and the environmental destruction from animal agriculture was a big thing too. But like I was like an angry atheist at the time, and I was like a logic bro, like an anti-SJW, like
been there, done that,
annoying person. Okay.
Yeah.
And I did not care about, I was never an animal lover. Like I didn't have that emotional embodied experience that you're talking about. But as I evolved over the years, I like became that. So now I'm like a huge animal lover, and like my dogs are my children. Like
sure.
Like I do feel very embodied now, and I don't do the things that I used to do. Like I don't consider myself a bad vegan anymore. Like I'm like fully vegan, embodied, whatever. But like I think that I don't think that you like have to be there like fully emotionally to like apply the ethic, as Elle was saying.
Sure.
Yeah, I actually would say that you can even make a distinction between like, so logically speaking, definitionally speaking, psychologically speaking, you have empathy and you have compassion. So they sound kind of the same, but the difference between them, that with empathy, in case of empathy, you feel as that being, right? So you like putting yourself in their shoes emotionally. And whereas compassion is you put yourself in their shoes logically, right? You reach that conclusion of fairness and justice, and you say what is happening to that being is unjust. And it sounds like less emotionally connected, but that actually like might change, might not. But compassion is the thing that leads more likely to like change, so practical change. So I actually do encourage people to think compassionately rather than empathetically, because empathy elicits so much emotion that can actually backfire and make somebody dig heels even stronger, dig in to their like identity of carnism.
Yeah, there was a book by Rutger Bregman called Humankind, A Hopeful History. And he talks about the difference between empathy and compassion. Because I don't really have the best empathy. I find it quite hard to put myself in the shoes of others, but like that's where like the compassion has to kick in. But I think it would be easier, right? I'll put it in the chat and I'll read it out for stream so they can hear. But I'll put the definition that like I think encapsulates what veganism is to me more, and we can see like the emotion isn't present in it, I don't think, but I'll read it. It's an applied ethical position that advocates for equal trait-adjusted application of commonplace rights to humans to non-human sentient beings.
It's a bit wordy, in it?
It is
I put it
very
in my
wordy.
chat too.
Yeah. So basically, I don't see emotion present. And I feel like if you took away any ounce of empathy from me tomorrow or care, I could still do it.
In fact, I can attest that I kind of lost my empathy because I've been editing like for the past 6 or 7 years, been editing like slaughter footage. I've been consuming a huge amount of like maha brain rot and just like reacting to it. I've kind of, in a lot of cases, can like view slaughter and not
Same.
feel anything emotionally,
Same.
being completely disconnected from it. It still keeps me vegan though.
Okay,
So-
I just want to clarify because now that you guys are talking, I wonder if I just want to clarify for my sake. I am having compassion, meaning to suffer with, and I'm being empathetic, and I'm crying over these animals, and I'm having a personal experience. The label of vegan feels less for me and more for people. Am I wrong on that? Like, it feels like to call yourself a vegan is more for how people perceive you.
Oh, yeah. I think label, it depends how far you want to go into labeling theory, but I believe labels are for other people. I don't think they're
Definitely.
really for, it's like with my gender stuff, EPM and I, you know, we've spoken about this a bit, but like when it comes to gender, it's interesting, but I say she, and it's when people ask me, it's kind of for the benefit of other people.
For sure.
I don't want
For
to go.
sure.
I don't want to go there. But like, you know, people misgender me on the internet all the time. I really don't care. It's quite affirming actually. When there's someone's like, this man has a. It's like, oh,
Oh, I love
thank
when people
you.
call me a man. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's giving me tingly feelings. But yeah, like I say she, her, and I call myself a woman, and
Sure.
that's really just for other people. To be honest, it's not for me. In fact, when someone says that lady over there, I feel feelings of disgust. So yeah, I think a lot of the time labels are for the benefit of other people, just to
Okay.
kind of categorize.
Then how does that play out? Because obviously I don't think I could have been plant-based a year and a half, and I don't think I'm ever going to eat an animal again. And I always go, this is how I've been doing it recently, which is, okay, why I don't think I'm vegan yet. But I go into the store, I go into the meat aisle, and I go, Brittany, would you like chicken? And I go, no, thank you, Brittany. I go, okay. And then we walk away. It's still a question for me to ask myself, like, is this something we want? And then I'm like, no, I'm good. And then I'll go and I'll make, like, I've been making I'm a good cook. So I've been killing it. Okay. It's not about even what we're eating. I know that. I know veganism is not about what I put in my mouth. Okay. Like, I know that. And yet I still am in the process of asking myself, like, would you like to have milk? Would you like to have butter? Is this something we want? I'm just checking, because how long am I going to be on this journey before I'm like, okay, girl, we're not going back. Maybe that's my responsibility is like, what if, because you know what? How many times am I going to watch Alex O'Connor come up with these, like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, bro, you debated so many people about this topic. I don't get it. Like, when I look at these people, this one girl too, Catherine, I think you made a video about her. She was vegan for so long, and all of a sudden she's got like fish and eggs. And I'm like, how? Like, what happened in those? Like, I don't want to be that person who's 10 years into something to realize, like, no, actually, I do want to eat slaughtered animals. Like, I don't think so. But how long am I going to ask myself these questions is my interest.
I think I can answer that because it's quite, I keep saying this recently because I get kind of impulsive thoughts where I think things that just aren't me, or it's something, it'll be like I'm walking down the street, right? And someone's maybe got some clothes that are quite high up. And these are first order and second order thoughts. So your first order thought is society, it's the people around you who have said certain things to you. So you go, oh, should you be wearing that? And then my second order thought kicks in. It's like, how dare you? How is that any of your business? So it's like, of course, like you have impulsive thoughts, you have intrusive thoughts, and you have these are your first order. Well, I don't know if impulsive thoughts are considered first order thoughts, but basically you have first and second order thoughts. So I think if something's not a social norm, if people make you feel like there's something wrong with you for adhering to that ethic, your first order thoughts can be really loud. It's like fat phobia.
Sure.
Like, you know, it's so rampant to just be fat phobic, just be like nasty about people's body image, or just even comment on people's bodies generally. Oh, they're too skinny. Oh, they're
For
too
sure.
fat. You know, stuff like that. So you may find yourself having those sorts of like looking at someone and assessing their body image. And then, yeah, the second order is who you really are, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So,
You're
so
not
to be
your-
vegan, you can, because sometimes we'll watch food videos together and I'm like, damn, that looks so good. I'm not going to eat it though. Like, is that vegan?
Well, yeah, I think because obviously, like vegans consume like you know, vegan chicken, and
Sure.
what you like. Obviously, I tried. My friend got me to try a piece of cow steak raw when I was younger. It was disgusting. It was repugnant. So, like cooking it with herbs and spices is what made it delicious, right?
Sure.
So it's like you remember that first order. I remember a memory. Like you don't know you're doing it necessarily, but subconsciously somewhere you're remembering a meal you had 10 years ago. Like that is happening. Or
For
it
sure.
smells like the vegan chicken you're making. So your first thought might be, oh, delicious. But your second order is going, that's a corpse. They were
Yeah.
murdered.
Right. I mean,
So yeah.
When I was eating meat, I would have those moments where I'd be eating a chicken. I'm like, oh damn, bro. Like I'm gross. Like I'm just like hitting here. Like, and I'm the kind of human who's had tried everything, like beef tongue and testicles and all
Same.
kinds of, I've eaten so many things in my life. And so this for me is coming from like such a deeply like empathetic place. Like Elle talking to you that one time and that click in my brain where I was like, oh, it's like a real tangible ethical stance. And I was like, I vibe with this stance. And so like, I think that's the thing. Maybe I'm holding myself to too specific of a standard because I am a public figure. Maybe I'm not thinking, maybe I'm overthinking it to some extent, but I'm just being very cautious because again, I don't want to see my name on a headline of Brittany Simon says she's vegan.
No,
But, like,
I get it. I would just comment that obviously you're autistic, aren't you?
yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I had my assessment and we were, honestly, I think we tangented to ethics and stuff
Yeah.
for like 80% of the time. And she was like, I think you think about ethics like a lot more than other people are thinking about ethics. And so obviously when you're overthinking this, you know, like anywhere I walk, I'm contemplating the ethics of something.
Yeah.
So it does lead you to start overthinking things.
For sure.
I just think if you're behaving a certain way that, you know, applicates the commonplace rights of other sentient beings
Yeah.
in a trait adjusted manner.
I think
It's like,
this
just
is-
to be clear, do you
Yeah.
know what I mean by trait adjusted in that sense?
Oh no, tell me.
So for example, like, well, commonplace rights is a bit different, but like, say for example, like people are like, oh, you want to give chicken the right to vote. It's like, well, it's trait adjusted. A chicken doesn't have moral agency. They're a moral patient. So like a human child, for example, children don't vote. So
Right.
it's like, it's trait adjusted in that sense. Like, of course, we don't want a child or a chicken to vote, to drive, to stuff like that. We don't want them to do that. And that's why it's trait adjusted. It's not like, oh, give them all the rights, you know, the right to vote, because it's understanding the traits.
It's interesting. I think veganism might be one of the, even my audience could probably attest to this, but this might be the most I've ever overthought an ethical position. Because most of the time, like, I will just read something. I'm like, oh, chat, we're changing this. It's ableist. We're not saying it anymore. Banned. Or like, we'll just like, it will be so easy for me to just incorporate it into my already foundational. I think like, I have been the meat girl, the meat identity for so long. I'm still unpacking all of like how it's attached to everything in my life. But like I said, my brother has like a farm and he'll show me all his animals and stuff. And I'm just like, and I'll, you know, he's like, I know you're vegan now. And I'm like, well, okay. Like, and I don't, you know, I get it. Like to everybody else, I'm materially like pretty vegan. And at the same time, I just want to, first, I don't want to be a liar. And two, I want to feel really good about it when I say it. And until I think that happens, I'll probably not call myself a vegan, but that's what I'm waiting for. Like, when am I going to feel, when is it going to hit that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm vegan.
Have you ever thought about it as like an extension of like how speciesism is basically a form of ableism?
Yeah.
I love that. Extend, please.
So like, if you think of like why, like all of the reasons people list for like what to justify what we do to animals, they're all related to ability. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they're not as intelligent, or oh, they're not like capable of building like all like it's like a might makes right argument. And like there's this great book called Beasts of Burden, and it's like about the intersections of disability rights and animal rights. That's very interesting. But I feel like, yeah, I just viewing it as basically ableism, like you're already embodied in the sense that you feel like, or do you feel embodied as a disability rights advocate?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think there are people who are better than me because that's their focus, but I try to incorporate it because I am disabled into all of my content. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's basically that. Like,
I want to ask a question, and I worry I'll forget, but if you're carrying on. Just know that I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is actually interesting, right? So I say the term ding dong on my channel because every insult is ableist.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, right? Because I view certain ableist terms differently. So like stupid, idiot, they are ableist. So I'm curious, like, do you think, you know how like the R slur is making a comeback everywhere? I'm getting called it, and I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, do you view that word, given its social acceptance, that is ableist? Do you view that the same when someone does it? Do you see them the same, rather, if they say stupid or idiot?
No, I'd see the R word is worse.
Yeah, so here's a great example. It's like they are both like that's why I say ding dong, because it's basically like hello, like knocking on the door, please, like, I'm here. Like that's, so it's got nothing to do with someone's intelligence or anything like that, because unfortunately I was like, I just don't want to, I try not to say anything like that, but it's so commonplace. And this is a good example. It's like the cat and the pig situation, killing the cat, killing the pig. Like, to me, they're both have that issue. But then when someone like does a specific one to more of a socially, don't know how to put it, just more of a social norm to not do that, it then says something about the person, perhaps more so. So it's not just like you're focusing then on the action, or like what's the outcome of using this term or doing this action. It's like how it interacts with the rest of the people, if that makes sense, or the rest of the non-human animals.
You know, to relate this to gender, I never officially came out, but I was like, hey guys, I'm using all pronouns now. That's it. Next. And like, I'm just like, I didn't make it a big thing. You know, I already came out once in my life. That was a big deal. You know what I mean? But this feels like a coming out. Like it feels that important. And I'm like, damn, this is a big deal, bro. Like, why does it feel like such a big, is it just because of the responsibility? Is it because I'm watching too many vegan debates?
No, it's funny you say that, because I do think of it as like, I've talked about that in the past, where it felt like, because people are like, oh, why are so many queer people vegan?
Yeah.
Which actually, like, I don't know if they are, because like I meet queer people, they're like,
no, the left needs to get on it, girl. The left is not vegan enough. I'm shocked. Talking about where our food is coming from. Everything is political, but food? Hello? Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Natalie Fulton, who called out like this leftist person recently. Yeah, basically it was just, I eat what's available to me, which is obviously the only way you can eat.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like not even like considering the victims of the situation. Like,
sure.
I'm going to tangent by mistake, and I might not return, but hopefully I do. You know, I was speaking last time about the sexual politics of meat. Was I speaking about that by Carol J. Adams? So it's like the link between feminism. Yeah. So she uses a term called the absent referent. Do you know what I mean?
No, please tell me.
Okay, well, it's awesome. Obviously, she's vegan, so anytime she's vegetarian in the book, I just also correct vegan. But yeah, essentially, absent referent is when they're right in front of you, but like they're not even being considered. They're absent, like they're being referred to. It's like you know, she likens it to, you know, women in situations, maybe it's in sex work or something like that, or, you know, like they're called a piece of meat, stuff like that. So they're like being spoken. What's that? Sorry,
objectification.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry, it's like synonymous with objectification. And yeah, that's the massive issue with like the left, is they don't see animals as victims. And that's why I make the video I do, and videos I do, and I do make prescriptions, because it's just like, I say the word sentient, I say other animals are sentient, I say individuals, I say someone, and the responses I get, it's like they're right in front of you having an experience and you're just ignoring it. Like, how is this happening? And it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I love that. The feminist argument for veganism really hit home for me, where like the cows, impregnation, milk, like the dairy farms, like that really got something inside of me. Like my body was like, oh, I'm getting it. Like this, I'm angry on behalf of. So that's like a really good example of like that feels embodied to me, where I was like, oh, absolutely not am I contributing to this like trafficking industry. And so like from that perspective, it feels very much like I'm on board, which is why personally I have stopped, because I personally don't want to contribute to, including like I try my best not to buy fast fashion and stuff like that, which is, by the way, like more impossible than not eating vegan or not like buying vegan or buying non-vegan. Like buying like fast fashion is it's so hard to find ethically sourced clothing. It's insane. But we know this because capitalism, we know this because of patriarchy and white supremacy. Like we're fighting real big systems of oppression. But I am kind of shocked that the left hasn't engaged in more vegan content or vegan from an ethical perspective. The vegan argument is very, very good. Like I am not in any way countering the logic of it. It's so good. And as a disabled person who is about to redo all her blood to make sure I'm good to go, I'm pretty sure it's going to come back fantastic, because PS, as a chronically ill girly, like going plant-based has 100% improved my fibromyalgia. Like it's much better. So it's just like from even that perspective, from a very selfish, like my own body perspective, it's been beneficial. So, you know, it's really, I feel like it's the trifecta of good. And I think I'm putting a lot of weight on it because it does feel like I'm coming out in a very significant way. So maybe it just feels very important to me, I think, maybe.
Are you
Yeah,
kind of waiting? Because it sounded like in that live reaction to Elle's debate that you did, it kind of sounded like you were waiting for the moment where you like view someone eating meat as like this, you get the same visceral disgust reaction to their behavior as you would if they like dropped the N-word or something. Like, are you waiting for like because
if somebody dropped the N-word in front of me, I'd be like, what the fuck was wrong with you? But if somebody ate a burger in front of me, I'd be like,
well, going back to what Elle was saying about the action being arguably like, you know, putting a being into a gas chamber, like with pigs, for example, that is arguably worse than like saying something that hurts someone's feelings, right? However, there is the reason you get, because I would have the same reaction as you, Brittany. If I heard someone drop the N-word, I would have like a more visceral disgust response than I would if I saw someone eating a burger. And I think the reason is because of the like adoption curve of like what's socially acceptable in our society. So like in our society, obviously racism is still very prevalent, but it's a lot more, if we're looking at like the left, for example, which is your community, it's a lot like less socially acceptable to be overtly racist than it is to be overtly speciesist, right?
Right.
So it says more about your character as a person to violate like a norm. So to say the N-word, you're violating a norm. You're like going out of your way to be like a shitty person. Whereas to like eat a hamburger, you're not violating a social norm. It's like so culturally ingrained and like not viewed by the majority as wrong, to where it's like, it says less about your character, even though you could argue that the action is worse. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, not to be that, yes, but not to be that person. But I think I hear you. I think, and not to speak for Black people, but and not to make them always the center of every conversation because they're sick of it and that they have a right to be. But I do think like the N-word isn't just the N-word. It also leads into firings, discrimination, police brutality, like all these other things. So I think in a world where Black people and anti-Blackness is so prevalent globally, and we don't even care about Black and brown human beings. ICE is picking up people as we speak. Every conversation that relates back to human stops my brain from working because it makes me think like, for some reason, the woman argument was better. I think because I have the reproductive body that like would be
so
associated.
you'd prefer like say the R word or the like let's use like the F slur.
Like
bitch,
homophobic,
or
bitch,
F-slur,
or
yeah.
misogyny would be
Okay.
better. Just because
Yeah.
like I you know, people don't really see Black and brown people as people, so like they'll literally pick a dog over a Black person. So we live in that world. But like when it
Insert
Yeah,
any,
yeah.
yeah.
I was
wasn't
gonna
trying
say-
to,
yeah.
I was going to say, like, in left spaces, like, a lot of the time I've heard, like, leftist guys say the word bitch, and they seem quite misogynistic, and it's like, oh, this guy's really cool. And it's like,
Yeah, I'm sick of it. I'm tired
Yeah,
of watching
so-
men use slurs towards women and say it's okay because like we don't like them. I'm like, oh, no.
yeah, and it's like,
Okay, so let's use that as that's a better
Okay,
example
perfect,
then.
perfect.
So let's say like bitch, right?
Okay.
Like if you like would you agree like you might have a more visceral reaction to like for example, I listened to Secular Talk, Kyle
Sure,
Konski.
Kyle's his mouth is
And-
filthy. Yep.
Yeah, and
I don't like him.
I've listened to him for a long time, to be honest. Like my brothers are big fans. I've always I've been listening to him for quite a long time. And I did have a visceral disgust response when he said that about that woman that Graham
Yep.
Plattner had assaulted. He
Yep.
said she was a lying bitch,
Yep.
even though he has no evidence that she's lying. And that gave me such a disgust response, like almost more so, because whenever I hear him talk about like, whenever he says something about related to like animal rights or something, which is rare, but if he says something and I'm like, he's ignorant on this topic, I give him more of a pass almost, even though I view eating animals as worse. The action of eating an animal to me is worse than like the action of calling a woman a bitch. But
I think they're the same. They might be the same to me.
my experience though, I felt more of a visceral disgust response hearing him call her a lying bitch than I did when I hear him talk about how he loves certain fast food restaurant with his buddy. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, I think I'm wrong. I want to almost be annoyed by both the same. I don't think I am, obviously. I think I'm with you on that. We're like, because it's like, well, you know what it is? It feels to me like directly calling a woman a bitch is a full choice you just made versus eating a burger is like secondary to slaughtering the animal. But then my brother slaughters his animals and I don't have a disgust response to it. I just have a like, that's
because
unnecessary.
of the cultural acceptance of speciesism. It's so much more culturally accepted.
Yeah, it
And
really,
to violate a social norm is worse than
it feels unnecessary but not disgusting. Like, yeah, it feels like.
Can I ask? I'm a bit confused. We're talking like interchanging between visceral reaction and how we view the morality of the action. So just to be clear, do you view calling a woman a bitch the same morally as eating a cow burger? Or is it a visceral? Are we talking about visceral reactions?
No, not visceral, like intuitive or like reactionary without thought, but more like in relation to your moral framework is how I'm thinking about it. Like I'm reacting because like something is like, what are you doing? But no, I don't get the same. That's what's missing, I think. And I'm not sure if I need it to be vegan. Like, should I be disgusted if somebody eats a burger? Like, should I? The same way that
I don't know if it's me not tracking. I remain confused. Do you view them morally the same?
No.
As okay, so
no.
Okay, that's fine. I was clarifying. I was just like, that would be interesting to pick at because if you viewed using a specific word like bitch morally the same as like consuming a burger.
No. I think I said it earlier, but I didn't. I misspoke.
Oh.
No. That's what you heard. I misspoke. But yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think of them the same. But I'm wondering if to be vegan, should I?
No, you should see one of them worse. The animal one is obviously worse.
But why is it worse when language is a communication tool and like words can be violence?
I'll do this, right? So which one's worse in your view? If I breed a girl into existence to like, this will be not nice to think about, obviously.
Sure.
But and then I farm her and kill her to eat a burger, or to make it analogous, I pay someone to do that. Or I call her a bitch. Which one's morally worse?
The breeding her into existence.
Yeah. So if you think you should view those two in the same, that there must be some sort of morally significant difference between the human girl in that instance and the, like, say, the cow, that would make that so morally low that then, you know what I mean? There's a differential there. And is there a reason there's a differential? Is it anything other than social norm? Because I think a lot of the time, the way I respond to things and view them is not actually, oh, I value this the same as something else, or I value this worse. Like in the cat case, I had a reaction of like, oh my God, that person. I reacted differently. But if I actually questioned it, morally, the same.
Would it be, I think the average person isn't slaughtering their own animals. Would it be more analogous to like being against like trafficking or sex trafficking or something, and then watching porn of a sex trafficked victim? Would that be like a little bit more analogous? Because like most people are eating a burger that was given to them in a package in which there's a disconnect happening. So maybe I don't have a visceral reaction towards them because I'm thinking like, man, they don't even know how that food got to their table. It's so normalized. Yeah. So maybe I'm being... Sorry. Something like that, or...
Well, you did say your brother hunts.
My brother, he doesn't hunt. He has a farm, yes, and he slaughters his own animals and feeds his family from it. Yeah, that's true. So that, you're right, that would be more accurate. Sorry, Elle's example would be accurate for my brother specifically. So that's a good example. So Elle did right there. Yeah.
Sorry, the connection's going a bit weird for me, and I am really bad at like knowing when a sentence is ending. That's fine.
Sure.
So in my hypothetical, I didn't explain properly, but you're paying someone else to do it. You're disconnected from the human.
Right. Oh, you're paying someone else to do it. You're disconnected from the human.
So there's no like, you're not farming them yourself or anything like that. Yeah. And obviously you can value a human at, like, there's going to be vegans who value humans equally to non-humans. Like in a burning building, they'd save the human over the animal. Some would save the dog over the animal, stuff like that. But like, if you're going to, this is kind of like, that's more, I forget what it's called. Like, it's not like obligatory, like jumping into a burning building as much as it is to just like, not kill someone or not pay someone to kill them. So if you're going to do,
and then one is obligation. Oh, I'm so sorry.
There we go. Yeah, no, you're correct. So if you're doing a virtue like that, you're saving. But if you are doing a negative action to an individual, there has to be some sort of like, like you could call it calculation or weighing up, like what the reason is why that may be like acceptable or just as bad as something else where it wouldn't be in the human context.
Okay, so it's something's clicking. So between what Elle said and between what Catherine said, is that what I'm waiting for it to click? Is that the realization that Catherine, you said a word that I didn't know, so I don't know how to repeat it, but something about the speciesism and the normalization in culture is like, it's so normalized that I'm not thinking about it. But I think
adoption.
Maybe
the adoption curve, or
I don't know. I want there to be that click in my brain where the trafficking example makes me go like, fuck no, you can't purchase those girls. Like, what are you doing? Like, I want it to feel like that in order for my brain to go, oh, I'm vegan, because that's what I'm waiting for. Like, when am I going to feel?
Yeah, I'm curious now because have you watched like a significant amount? Like, have you watched Dominion or like these long form exposés of, because like when I was describing my vegan journey earlier, where I didn't care about animals and I was just like, the logic was what, clicked for me. But then when I watched Earthlings, the movie, I had this like embodied, like empathetic experience where I like fully was like horrified by what I was seeing. And like there's a term called bearing witness that people talk about quite a lot, where it's like there's a difference between like the reason bearing witness is important is because it gets you there. Like there's a difference between like knowing and then knowing.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm waiting. I want to know. Right.
And I feel like experiences like going to a like I went to I was at a gas station and I saw one of these trucks that was carrying like a bunch of cows, and I went over to them to like bear witness, and I like saw them, and I like looked them in the eye through these slits, you know, and I saw them standing in their own feces and just like so stressed out. And like it gave me like I had a mental breakdown at this gas station. And I think that like you just haven't had that type of experience yet, maybe because you haven't like, I mean, you may have seen, because there's also a difference between seeing it on video, like in a documentary, and like seeing it in person and like looking these animals in the eye. Like that's like such an emotional connection that I had like through that experience.
Well, I would say I haven't seen Dominion yet, and I haven't seen Earthlings, but the reason it clicked in my head to go plant-based was I watched some documentaries about veganism, and I was like, oh, locked in. I was like, locked in, because I'm getting my protein, I'm lifting weights, I don't need it. What do I need the cow
Game
for?
changers?
Game changers.
Okay.
You know, I was like,
but that's
locked
not,
in.
That's more of the education. Like, here's the information. It's different than like, I made this like personal connection to this animal by like looking them in the eye and like seeing their suffering and like feeling it. Like,
so let me, because I think chat's getting a little confused too. I don't want to have a disgust response, because that's not anything. That could be wrong. You could have the wrong disgust response, which I think VPM even said earlier. Like you could have the wrong emotional response to something. I don't want that. I want it to be a embodied understanding. It's like when we've been having this biphobia conversation about straight women not dating bi men, and I'm like, what are you doing? Right? It's like, you guys say you're the biggest allies for the gay community and then say we all have AIDS. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not an embodied understanding of homophobia or biphobia. Like, I want to have an embodied understanding. So I actually did help my brother. I was there during the slaughtering of his animals. And at the time I was there, and please, like, I know what I'm about to say is like so annoying to vegans, and I don't blame you. It was such a spiritual, they prayed over the animal, and the animal was like so calm. And then I was just like, what is that? But like in our heads, it was like, wow, what an amazing experience. And then now in hindsight, like now thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I regret that. I like regret that. I can't believe I participated in that. But
you know what that, sorry to cut you off.
No, tell me.
That just reminds me of how, so people accuse vegans of being in a cult, but if you actually think about it and you look at like the BITE model to like determine what like a cult is, carnism is the cult.
Oh yeah.
So what that reminded me of is like these cult documentaries I've seen, like the Mormon polygamists, like FLDS, whatever, like the Warren Jeffs, like they had the same experience when they like consummate their marriage to their child brides and like all this fucked up shit. And it's because they're literally like in a cult. And so the cult mindset, you view it in a different light. Like you view that experience as like a spiritual experience.
Sure.
But then when you're outside of the cult and you're like viewing it from the outside, now you are viewing it with a different eyes, and you're like, that was weird.
Well, that's what introspection is. That's what like that's the idea of like breaking these bubbles and thinking about like, oh, why did I think about it this way? And we all have our reasons. Like, I wonder how much I'll unlearn in the next 30 years and look back and be like, Brittany 2026 was stupid. Like, or you know, she didn't know, or they didn't know, whatever. But I think like you're right that I need to watch more documentaries. I think I need to have a more click. Like I need to click more and more. Like I feel like it's going. And I think I'm just on that rotation. And then once it clicks, it will be embodied. I won't be lying. It won't feel embarrassing. It will feel right. It will feel like I don't need you guys to convince me I'm vegan. I know I'm vegan. Let me tell you why I'm vegan. You know, with everything I do, I'm this confident. And I'm not about to half-ass veganism. Like, you know what I mean? But I did hear from vegans that said their biggest regret was not going vegan sooner, which is why I'm plant-based. Because I was like, okay, if I end up vegan later, I'm going to really regret not going plant-based or vegan sooner. So let me just stop eating animals until I figure it out. And that's been my...
If I can add a little bit of nuance to the carnism is a cult. Me and Al, with another person, we actually did the BITE model, comparing carnism to veganism for like 5 live streams or something like that. And carnism did come up like higher than veganism. If I remember correctly, veganism was 18 points out of like possible 250 or whatever. And carnism was like 58. So I don't think carnism is specifically a cult.
Sure.
I am kind of convinced that the farming community is, though.
I can see that.
Yeah. We VPM and I, because the content we make, we've convinced the algorithm that we're like homesteaders, rodeo goers, and all of that, and we see things that just, oh my God. Like I saw one, and it was like, oh, why have you had so many kids as a farmer?
Oh.
And then it was that like meme format where it's like today's topic, and he's sipping coffee, and then he says slavery. And like, everyone was laughing. It's like, yeah, that's why I've had my kids and stuff. And it's like, what is this? What is this? And they do things, and they don't question the words they're saying or the concepts they're bringing up. And if you question it, it's just a joke. And it's quite scary being in the depths of these places, especially with homesteaders. And I think this is where cognitive dissonance comes up. Like there's people who are like, they're documenting their, like there's this person who I've covered, and she did an 8-week bird experiment, and she's like, I'm just about to process these birds. So she has to say specific language. She never says kill. She says dispatch, process. She's like, I'm feeling like I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't feel good. But then here comes these illogical coping mechanisms that are like, but like, they're not, if I let them live, it's cruel because they're not meant to live that long. And then she never thought, oh, I've paid for them or I've bred them to be in selectively bred bodies. I've made the problem. And not only that, I predicted it. And then I looked, she's doing it again and again. So she's using these sorts of arguments that don't actually apply because she'll carry on buying them or breeding them. And then she's the same person who is like, if you feel bad when you dispatch animals, you're the right person to do it. And it's like, this is a level of like, if you trait adjust it, it is just like, that is, no, you're not like, that is your logic. That is your cognition saying to you, beep, 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 something's wrong. And I see it a lot in the farming community, the rodeo community, where they're like mutton busting with kids and stuff in the comments they make, especially in the dairy industry. They put sexualizing music, like VPM and I have covered them a lot. Very misogynistic stuff. It will be a picture or a video of like the backside of an animal, and they've sexualized it. And it's just like, this is very normal, and they're not really thinking anything further. But I don't think that carnism is genuinely a cult, but it's like closer because as you know from the Bible.
That's a really good point. It's more of a religion, because like you wouldn't classify Christianity as a cult, but it uses certain like.
Would it be more like a denomination?
Traits sometimes. Like
I think it would be more of a denomination, just because I don't know what the deity would be. But yeah, it would be more. Would it be a denomination or a sect or something like that? I can't remember the distinctions anymore. Actually, retract what I said.
I just think they use. I'm an atheist saying this.
Same.
I just think that it's illogical, and they use like apologetics and like weird arguments to. Like
to justify the behavior. I mean, in the vegan debate, Christianity especially comes up a lot, and then I'll ask them about kings where God sent 2 bears to maul children to death, and they'll be like, yeah, no, that's fine. It's like, oh my God. No, it's not. But I know that's fine. That's God's will.
Well, I'll say, kind of connected to this, I will say one of the better arguments for my brain is to hear that like being bred into existence just to die is crazy. Like, I don't think kids should be bred into existence just to like take care of you when you're old, let alone work on the farm, let alone. Nice. So I don't think like animals should be born into existence just to die or become clothes or something. Like, I'm not about it. And so I think it's easier for me as an individual to come to these decisions. Like somebody in the chat asked why aren't I fully against animal exploitation? In my head, I wanted to say I am, but you're right. There's like this disconnect that's happening where in my head, I'm anti-animal exploitation, but then that's what I'm waiting for is like for it to extend to all avenues of animal exploitation within reason. I assume like, whatever that means, but I don't have that versus and this is personal. Like I think ethics and morals are personal and they interact with society, right? So like I want to make sure that when I say things, that's why I don't make prescriptions, because I don't I want to live in a society that's a collective. We work to collectively towards a direction rather than that religious, you must do what I say, you ought to do this thing. I don't want to be a religious person like that. I already left religion. I'm trying to say, like, as a collective, how would we like to move forward to bring down harm, to do best, and to value living creatures in the planet and everything that inhabits. Like, I think, as an atheist, I do engage in what, like, I call spiritualism, but it's not a non-magical, non-woo-woo spiritualism that says that, like, being alive is quite an amazing experience, and we should make it amazing for everybody who exists, non-human, human, everybody. Okay. So it makes sense for me to go towards that vegan path. And I don't want to exist or contribute to an industry that says, like, you are only here to work for me. You are only here to be used in this way. Like, this is your only use. Like, what a disgusting way to see any consciousness in the universe, right? So I'm on board 100% with that. Well, see, that's why I say 100%, but then I go, then why aren't I vegan? Why aren't I just owning the life,
I think it might be you mentioned you were autistic, Brittany.
Yeah.
And Elle, you said you were autistic?
I'm waiting in the
okay.
post. It could come this week. It could come tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this just has to do with, like, the neurotypical versus what neuroatypical or neurodivergent brain, because, like, I am, like, I see the logic of, like, this is the definition of vegan. Like, you're either vegan or you're not, whatever. But, like, I guess as a neurotypical person, I am, like, willing to look past certain things. Like, I'm just like, whatever, like, call yourself vegan, like, and, like, y'all are just like, no, like, I have to be, like, it's a little bit more, like, black and white.
It's like a correction impulse in my brain. Like, when someone says something that I take to be inconsistent, it physically hurts. So I wanted to just say, like, I think what would be really good, like, if this entity that PM can discuss, but also I think a really good thing that people underestimate is, obviously, you said you didn't watch Dominion. I think it's very important to see consequences, and that they're very real, because even if people understand something to be wrong, the disconnection, the social norm is still having an effect on you.
For sure.
Like, even with things that you know to be wrong, I shouldn't be even thinking about someone's body type and thinking I have a right to their body. It's still going to happen. It's still going to be like, oh, is she wearing that? Like, it will happen, like, probably, because of how it's instilled. But I think another underestimated thing, and I edit videos for Sanctuary, so I do rescue stories, and sometimes the positive stuff can be just as, like, I can watch animals being like bludgeoned to death, and I may feel a bit of anger, but it's like another day in paradise, like, because I see it every day. But then recently, rather, I have made videos on this pig called Dahlia, and she surprised the rescuers because it was the first time they'd ever smelled. People often don't know that some pigs can secrete a pheromone that smells like maple syrup when they're happy. So she got into their car, like, they had to rescue her with bananas. Pigs don't like getting picked up usually because they're like a prey animal, so they think they're in danger a lot of the time. So it's usually the case they're not going to like being picked up. She was picked up, she was squealing, she was not happy. She gets in the car, boom, they smell maple syrup because she's being fed bananas, and and I bawled my eyes out. And there was another a cow, and there was this cow herd, and this cow passed away, and she was kind of like the matriarch of the family, and they put like a tarp over her body, and in the rain these cows they were looking at the floor, looking at her body, and they stayed there for like hours in the rain, and then every day for like a week they would go back to where she was buried and just lay there. And I had to go downstairs and cry to my partner. I bawled my eyes out. I think a lot of the time, because of the social norm, we completely detach from these very clearly sentient beings to the point you call them sentient. Someone's like, or individuals or someone, I don't know about that. So actually, like, listening to their stories positively, like on rescue places, I think is a tool that's completely underestimated.
I think that's so
Like-
smart. No, I think you're so right, because we do that with when people are confused about Palestine. I go, look at this video. Look at these kids who want to be football players. Look at these kids who have lives. Like, and then we see the bad videos, the destruction of the genocide. I'm like, look at this, and like you have to witness it. What's happening in Sudan and Haiti? Like you have to look at it and see. And it's not always the bad stuff. You have to remember these are people with real lives and hobbies, and they want to hang out with their families on the weekends and do normal shit too. And it's really helped solidify in so many people's brains, like, okay, this isn't just going back to the, the list or buying from certain places, or you really are impacting. Like something that changed my brain on fast fashion was like every piece of clothing touched human hands. Like every single piece of clothing was touched by people. Like people brought this into the universe, and like it just changes. This is why I say like pop those bubbles, read more, watch documentaries. So I think you're right. I think at this time in my story, I think I need to watch more. I think I need to consume more. I think I need to research more. And I think I'm slowly heading in that direction. And Elle, I don't know if you remember this, but I believe you told me when you first spoke, you said, I think you're going to be vegan. And I said, don't tell me what to do.
Oh, an autistic person being demand avoidant.
Don't tell me what to do.
I'd never. You wouldn't catch me being demand avoidant.
Okay. I was like,
so-
listen, okay. But I think that's where I'm at probably. If you guys had to diagnose me, I think it's she needs to watch more documentaries. Like she needs to just research more, read more books. Because I think that's what's missing. I want to make sure that it's embodied, it's real, I'm serious about it, and I know how to defend it, because I don't take ethical positions I can't defend. That's a
Yeah,
big role.
I think-
You should read that Beasts of Burden book about, sorry if that's really loud, about animal rights and disability rights, because it's written by a woman who is disabled herself, who's vegan.
Perfect. I've been taking
And
notes.
I think, yeah. And I think like also Dominion, obviously, but visiting like a farm sanctuary and like spending time with animals, I feel like is also one of those experiences that makes
Yeah.
you feel like truly connected.
Well, watching my cat go through the last stages of her life, like the amount of crying, the amount of just mourning collectively, like it's so real, and she's so tangible to me. Like if that's what somebody, I think maybe it was, I don't know whose content I saw, but I've heard, do you like animals or do you like pets? And that's something that I've been thinking about. Like I'm looking at Indiana, and I'm like, Indiana, like I had this realization the other day that made me cry so hard, where I was like, oh my God, someone labored to bring Indiana into the universe so she could pick me. Like somebody labored, like her mother labored to bring her into existence. And like, that's the connection to me that's getting me closer and closer to recognizing, like, I would just be mortified. Like my partner and I are always thinking about, like, if the house is on fire, what do we do? And the first thought is like, grab Indiana. Like our first thought is like, go for Indiana. Like, where's her carrier? Where's her stuff? Like making sure she's constantly the focus of our protection. And like, that is because she is such a person. I mean, she has preferences and communication styles, and she has favorite spots in the house. Like everything about her is so tangibly real to me. And I think like the more and more I see every single living creature that way, and I do philosophically believe that it's true, but I think the first time we talked to Elle, I kept saying stuff like, we are animals on a planet, but I kept thinking about hierarchy and dominance, which we are deconstructing actively. Like, there is no hierarchy or dominance over other people. Like, we need to deconstruct these frameworks from our brains and remember that, like, we don't have dominance over any living creature, or like we shouldn't. And so that needs to extend to non-human animals.
Yeah, I would say like the thing that hurts me when I'm making the videos is I'm making a video about this individual, and then the sanctuaries usually do a closing statement, and they say it's horrible to think that there are millions of this animal, of her, on the truck right now, or being bred in a crate. And yeah, I think making that connection, I think there's a bit of like self-protection there, because obviously like it is harrowing to understand the sheer number of individuals who are being like objectified, brought into existence to be treated lower than a piece of crap on a shoe. Like that is just like, for me, that's just like too much. So sometimes I do have to like, come away. But there was a point, and now I've like, I wrote it down. No, I didn't write it down. What were you saying the last bit? Oh, no.
preferences, uniqueness, tangibility, that I was in the pet aisle one time and I saw a sheep on a bag of food and I was like, did we kill other people's like animals to make food for my animals? And I was like, what is this world we live in? And like, there's a cycle. Now, Indiana is a meat eater, but like, and there's some people weirdly thank me for this. They're like, thank you for not making your animal vegan. I was like, I don't know what you're thanking me for. I feel weird, but like, she's a cat and I don't know what to do about it. Okay. Like, I don't know what the rules are, but even that was like really jarring for me to be like, oh, like we're picking up like a whole aisle of like, they have a cute little sheep on these packages. And I'm like, that's so dark. But anyways,
it's not triggered the memory for me. There was like a point that I wanted to
Hierarchy,
make,
hierarchy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah, thank you. We share a brain cell.
We share a brain.
We do. Yeah, so with the hierarchy situation, it's like in my debates, a lot of the time, watch VPM's debates, a lot of it is like there is a lack of intrinsic value offered to others outside of the self. And I think it's like, obviously I'm passionate about other things. I do a lot of focus on my VG stuff and talk about vegan ethics and try and keep people topical. But the way I want to interact with the world is in a way that doesn't behave as if individuals are only valuable insofar as like their proximity to my experience. And like a lot of time people be like, well, when I say, well, what's the morally significant difference between humans and other animals? I'll be like, well, I'm human.
Right.
It's like, let's be so real right now. Like, just be like genuine. Like, if you turned into a robot tomorrow and you were no longer human, are you telling me that the snap of the finger, you become a robot? Like, you're like anyone you love who's a human loses value. Like, it's like, who do we think we are? Like, there are individuals having experience, and it's again because, oh well, they can't speak to us. It's like, so. And it's just like, it's so disgusting because there's literally like human beings who couldn't speak to me. There's many other languages out there.
Right.
There's people who just cannot speak. And like, that doesn't, like for some people that genuinely is like, oh, well, in this argument, they lose value. It's like,
I like that word intrinsic. I think that's really standing out to my brain is like, I do want to believe internally that I do think like every rock, tree, and creature has intrinsic value. And then the question is, if I believe that, what do I go from there?
See, I would distinguish. So for me, it's the sentience. So
sure.
Like a rock has extrinsic value to me. So a rock is, so say, for example, I had a rock and I collect stones. They're little stones, they're extrinsically valuable because they're valuable to me, a subject. If I like no longer care or nobody cares about that rock, like who is sentient, throwing that rock or like discarding of that rock or doing something to that rock, it can't be intrinsic to the rock. There's like nothing going on subject wise.
Oh, interesting.
So,
I think personally, like I do extend it out, but I think everything is
okay.
Because I think like we're part of the universe, like literally factually, right? Scientifically, like we're a floating rock in space. So like, I think an asteroid is like valuable, and I think the like in that sense, but that might be too literal.
Can I explain?
Valuable, but extrinsically versus intrinsically. Like it's still valuable.
Well,
but
you don't know whether humans exist or not, right?
No, I would say.
Why not?
Because there's no subject to like
experience it.
Yeah.
I think I take a pretty radical
Not just
stance.
humans, but like other animals as well. If there were no sentient beings on the earth,
I think like
matter at all.
Like I take a pretty strong stance that like hair holds memory, or hair, like, so if I cut hair from my head and it was on the ground, like there'd still be something about it that was like, this might be too spiritual. This might be too woo woo, but like, I do believe that like inherently, like it's amazing that the universe exists, and that's not from a god or some magical thing. That's just like factual. And that alone brings intrinsic value to like a rock, or like the way the rock has been impacted by water evolution over the years. Like it feels like the history is interesting, but I think things matter outside of human beings. Everything matters outside of us because it exists and it's within, I don't know, it exists, and that's enough for me, I think sometimes. But maybe that's just my
I would say it could matter still without human beings.
Sure.
But if there's like maybe I just don't understand the worldview, which is okay, because like we don't need to discuss that necessarily. But like, I don't think a rock can experience.
Sure.
So if the rock, say there's a planet and there's just that rock on it, there's nothing, there's no experience. So the rock could be valuable if an alien came and was like, I think this rock is the most beautiful thing, and now it matters.
Sure.
Like, so it does have value, but extrinsically but my point to that, because it might take longer to like explain those sorts of things, is basically a lot of the time people only have value to like other people insofar as what they can serve for them. Like you hear a lot of people, some people have friends even, and they drop them the minute they need to like value them as people. So that's why I say extrinsic versus intrinsic. I don't think people value, like even if they have like a companion animal, a lot of the time it's, oh, I want a dog because then the dog will do tricks for me and they'll do what I say and they'll be cute and I'll feel happy. It's never like, it is obviously people do this, but it's like what you said earlier, like I need to focus on their best interests because I value this individual intrinsically rather than, oh, they'll give me so much happiness and that's kind of where it ends. And that's why I brought that up, because it's just so concerning that comes up very often. And it makes me wonder how those people interact with humans as well. Basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's clear that people aren't thinking very deeply about much, and it's always a journey. Like, I mean, I have to constantly physically sit in a position and meditate and think about things. And so I extended out, like, I think I personally want to be more or less a steward of things. Like I want to be an elder in the community, and I want to make sure that I'm contributing correctly and that we're honoring the things. Like even when I was a nanny and babies would like kick the flowers, I'd be like, absolutely not. We're not kicking flowers. Like that is a living thing. And we're gonna, we're also not gonna like break things just because we feel like it. Like, that thing has value. And so for me, I think it's, again, attached to harm reduction very heavily for me, or the fact that I just really want people to value things like even something as silly as this microphone. Like you shouldn't just take it and smash it because you own it. Like you should think about the fact that like you put effort into that. It took labor to get that. It's yours to take care of. Like, and that's kind of extending out to I mean, people take better care of their cars than they do of animals. So like we obviously understand value, but you're right. They usually relate it to themselves. But I think like there's something about this that stands out to me. I like this word intrinsic, and I like the idea that animals have a right to their life. Like I think that makes a lot of sense.
There was something
I would say,
said-
oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, you haven't. I feel like I've talked more than you, so go ahead.
No, it's not a competition. I think it's a bit of a, to be honest, listen, spirituality is like great, I suppose. I'm sorry, it's just like not for me.
Sure.
But I think like logically speaking, there is a bit of a category error to say, for instance, that your microphone has like an intrinsic value. Because what we mean by intrinsic is wait, how do you say that word? I'm sorry, English is not my language. Intrinsic, yeah. So to have an intrinsic value, it should be valuable to itself, whereas extrinsic value, it is valuable to somebody who is an agent. For instance, like if you take my phone, it's obviously valuable to me, like it's my credit card right now and stuff like that. But if it's nobody's phone, if it's at the end of its life and I bought a new phone, taking this phone and dropping it in like a Sahara desert to decompose is actually problematic. But what is it problematic for?
Sure, the
it's not
environment.
problematic for the phone. It's problematic for all the plastics and the metals that is going to be changing ecosystems. And why do we value ecosystems? Is because there are sentient beings in it that kind of depend on that ecosystem, depend on the food, the shelters, and so forth and so on. In that, and that's the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic.
Sure. I mean,
wonder,
I logically understand all that. I think I agree with all of that. Like, I don't disagree with any of that. I think I'm probably thinking more literally, maybe, or outside of it. I don't know. Go ahead, Elle.
I was just wondering if it's the neurodivergence thing again, right? Because I don't know about you, but like when I grew up, I had a teddy, and I thought if I was rude to the teddy would kill me.
For sure.
And like even now, like if I see like a teddy bear, Like, I'm like, I can't be mean to that teddy bear, but I know logically.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. But I literally, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I don't like watching people kick robots. I think that's fucked up. Like, you leave that robot
I saw-
alone. You know,
I saw
don't
robots
like that
fighting the
shit.
other day.
Yeah, I don't like
I saw
it.
robots in a battle, and I was like, oh my god! But logically,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like, I
So-
understand that. I do think that I'm thinking more or less like when I think about rocks, especially. I have a very big autism rock thing, and I love rocks. I just think rocks hold so much memory, and they hold so much like history, and they represent so much about time. So when I see them, I think there's a value in that rock. Like, that rock is valuable, but not just because of me, but because of all that it's seen. Like, if this rock could talk. You know, if this rock could tell us their story. And so that's why it feels that way. Like, and it's also why I call it spiritualism, because at the end of the day, it's something that is like, maybe science can't prove just yet, but I think like materially, like atoms are atoms and we're all made of these atoms, and like, you know, energy doesn't disperse after we're dead. It just gets, you know, so for me,
I think the reason, like, as a vegan, like, I feel the need to make this distinction and be like, no, like, rocks are not sentient.
Sure.
Like, plants are not sentient.
I wouldn't say they're sentient, right?
Because, right. But like, have intrinsic value or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Is because if we spiritualize and like look at literally everything, like the philosophy of animism, like everything has a spirit or a soul, whatever. It's like, that's when people use the plants feel pain.
Sure.
Therefore, like,
I hear it every day.
becomes like futile. It's like, well,
Sure.
if plants and rocks are equal to humans and animals and everything's equal, then like, I mean, what's even the point of like being vegan? You know what I mean?
No, I hear that.
Yeah.
Someone makes that argument in my chat all the time. Like, I block people. I'm like, don't talk to me about plants can scream. That's not what's happening. Blocked. And I said, this is what I tell them though. I say, if plants have sentience, we'll find another way around plants too. Because what they're trying to say is it's too hard. And I'm like, nothing's too hard. We've gone to the moon. We could do it. Like, okay.
And people don't realize that the moon thing's interesting, because it was in my video today. But they don't realize that the plant sentience thing is actually an argument for veganism, because of, like, you know, animals consuming plants, and, you know, populations being deforested to make way for crops to grow for animals, or for animals to graze. So it's just like, it's actually an argument against you. But yeah, it's funny you say, you know, we went to the moon because do you know about Laika?
No, Laika? Mm-mm.
Laika was a dog, and before people went
the
to
Russians,
space,
they sent him. Is that the Russians? I don't remember.
I think it was the Russians. So before humans were sent up there consenting, non-consenting animals, various animals, I think monkeys and dogs were sent there, and Laika was one of those individuals. And it just shows, like, you know, for a lot of societies, dogs are seen, you know, to not be put on a pedestal. We believe we put them on a pedestal, but people in these like societies still crop them, breed them, and not just breed them, but breed them with problems that mean that their lifespan's cut in half, or they can't even have like a pregnancy that's natural. You know, they exploit them in other ways. So it just shows, like, if Laika was intrinsically valued, the concept of taking her to the moon, like, she was just taken into space to see how long she'd last, basically, to see if the rocket. And obviously, you know, if you're doing these calculations, she's going to probably burn from the inside out. Like, you know, she's going to, I think the rocket kind of like exploded before like it got into orbit or something like that. But, you know, if she had intrinsic value to people, the concept of even considering that would have not happened.
Right.
So I mean, with you, obviously, you have a different worldview in the sense of you're valuing, like, I don't want to like misrepresent it, but essentially, you know that if there's a cat, like a cat or a pig in your house, you're gonna pick that before, like, that option before you pick that rock.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Like,
No, logically, and Catherine used that word. Somebody accused me of being one of those people, and I looked into it. I was like, that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm just being. I'm very. The way I speak is very like it is autistic, isn't it? But like, you know,
I think you personify.
I do.
And inanimate objects.
I do.
That's a point I wanted to bring up, was like the concept of like objectification
Yeah.
and the concept of dehumanization and
Yeah.
animalization. These are all
Yes.
interesting words because the problem is objectification, where we are turning a sentient being into a object, like a rock. That you can just treat like a piece of furniture or like whatever. But like the reason animalization is wrong or like dehumanization is because of the speciesist framework that we live in.
Right.
So
right.
like the way we treat other marginalized people by animalizing them, that's wrong because of the way we treat animals. Like
Right.
if we treat a human like cattle, it's like that's bad. And it's like, okay, but why are we treating cattle like cattle?
Cattle.
You know
yeah.
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And
Like,
that I'm
why
on
are
board.
we-
Yeah. That is obviously wrong.
So
So
I feel like the problem is like the objectification of all animals, human and non-human. And the only way for that to make sense is to recognize that like inanimate objects don't have intrinsic value.
sure.
Because like
sure.
it's okay to treat a table. I mean, extrinsically, it's not okay to destroy a table because someone made that, and you're like destroying their art, and like you're like taking away the value that table provided to people. But like to kick a table that's like already like gone to the dump or something. Like,
But there's something. Yeah. There's
you know what
like,
I'm saying?
yeah, I do. And I think I forget sometimes that like non-vegans will hear this conversation and they'll be like, oh, see, it's just like that's what Brittany's not. And I'm like, oh, I forget like other people can hear this convo. And so I got to remember like how I'm talking and like, but yeah, I think my personal framework doesn't matter for the argumentation of veganism and the sentience that we must protect. I want people to just know that like Brittany Simon's personal relationship with how she feels about inanimate objects has nothing to do with the focus of us honoring the sentient beings that we want to protect. And I think that's really the focus. So it doesn't, that's what that part seems less important. But I think to extend my own personal philosophy out, I want to make sure that I incorporate sentient beings into that level of importance. But you're right. Like even when we talk about hierarchies of who we would save, there is a hierarchy based off of like, I mean, I've even heard people ask you like, would you save like a baby or a cat? And it's like, you're doing this thing again where, you know, and I don't like the victimization that people weaponize as like they give you hypotheticals that don't even make sense. Like they don't even make sense for what we're talking about. What did you eat today? And how much power do you know? Yeah. And like all I wanted to get down to is the practicality. Like even I'm on a €50 budget a week for food. And that did not change after I went plant-based. I still do it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's too expensive. It can be if you're in a food desert. It can be if you have to drive a far away place to the store. It can be. But if you're just at a normal store every day, I have managed to do it. So every barrier that people bring to you about why they can't be, quote, vegan, that's not happening for me. It is just that click, 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 click that I'm like waiting for. Though this conversation has helped immensely. Like I do think I'm even closer.
Yeah, people have corrected me. Sorry, Leica died hours into the flight of like overheating. And
That's
yeah,
sad.
again, it just shows like, you know, and as you said when you were responding to my video, because I do try and keep it linear and everything, but the way that people respond a lot of the time kind of assumes that like horrific things haven't happened and still don't happen to human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it is my belief. I don't have that belief of one single ideology. You know, if you are X, then the world fixes itself. I don't believe in that. I think there's intricacies and everything. But yeah, I think the basic concept of like valuing individuals outside of yourself is going to be so integral to like not only who you are as a person, but like how you engage with the rest of the world. And I think, you know, that would have never happened to Leica. The animals who, you know, I've been in farms and seen pigs in farrowing crate facilities and their piglets, and I know all of them. If you know, there are a few of them dead in bins who had been like thumped. You know, they would never have been there. There wouldn't have even been a conversation.
Right.
Like, and even in the human context, like, there's just too many examples of things that would never, in my opinion, never have happened if the you know, the idea of valuing others outside of yourself was present. I just don't think it is. Like,
Yeah.
I look at the news and I'm like, how did that happen? Like, how does that happen? Like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't. Yeah.
Well, I've been wondering, I've been working with my audience to figure out if, because right now we can't even get humans to care about other people. And so like, if that's not happening, but then I kind of do wonder, could people be more motivated to care about people if we made them realize you care about your dog a lot? Like your dog, like maybe caring about an animal, non-human animal could help us transition. But the point is that like, I know we're not going to change the world, but the world needs to change itself. Like we know that we're one person on a sea of 8 billion people, but the hope is that I give people the questions to ask the answers, that they are introspecting, that we, just like me, I want to show my audience that I too am still working on stuff, and that I need people who are better versed in topics to come help me to pop my bubbles and help me to like get the tool, whatever the tool is. Someone's going to say something like Elle did that first talk, and it's going to go click, 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 and it's going to start me on that thing. And I already feel it here today. I've written down so many things, and like, I already have that feeling today where I'm like, oh, okay, that's the next path, like next path. Like that's what I got to do next. And I want people to see it, that no matter how introspective you are, how much time you spend meditating, like, you know, it's a lifelong practice, you know? Now, and I wondered, we've been here for a bit, but I wondered if anyone had specific topics or questions they haven't asked. Did everyone get what they thought they were going to get out of this conversation? I mean, I feel selfishly very rewarded. Like I feel pretty good about it.
That's good. I suppose I have this argument that I think most people, even if they don't do like much introspection, would agree with me on it, and indeed are, like in my experience. So my claim is right now that most people agree with veganism in principle, but not so much in practice. Do you mind if I share it with
No,
you
go
and
ahead.
your audience?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, go ahead.
If I share my stream, would that fuck things up for you? Or?
I don't think so necessarily.
Okay, let me know if that fucks
I
things up.
think I have to watch your stream. So let me click it on my end. Okay.
Okay, so this is the argument that I present in Outreach usually. So not exactly an argument, it's a question to think about. Imagine there are two possible worlds. In world A, we exploit and slaughter animals for unnecessary stuff. In world B, we don't exploit and slaughter animals for unnecessary stuff. Which world is more moral is the question. And most people kind of reluctantly say that world B is obviously more moral. But as you see in your live stream, in your chat, a lot of people have like practical issues that they need to solve. And so the question is then becomes, if you agree that world B is more moral, then we should all strive towards fixing those practical issues and applying the ethical stance so that we get world B to exist not only personally in our personal life, but also collectively. And of course, collective starts with the personal. So
Yeah.
Oh, Elle, we lost Elle, unfortunately.
She's back.
Oh, is she back?
Hi.
Yeah, I guess I would also just add, like, it's obvious, but like the more privileged you are, the more responsibility you have. So whenever leftists are arguing about, they're giving excuses, they will use certain communities, like marginalized communities, disabled people,
Sure.
indigenous people in different situations, as like a reason for them not to be vegan.
Right.
It's like, you're like in a position of privilege, like what are you capable of doing?
Right. I've seen indigenous TikTokers get so annoyed with that. They're like, don't use my name. I was like, bro. I actually I feel like I could debate veganism pretty well, and I don't want to be a vegan debater. You guys do it well enough. But if I told myself, like, I sometimes find myself doing that in chat, and people are like, are you a vegan? I'm like, like, what does it really mean? But I think that's the thing, is that I do principally, and I don't want, because sometimes when anti-vegans come to my chat, I'm like, I'm going to block you because we're not anti-vegan here. Like, that's ridiculous. The point is to say, when we're making prescriptions in a non-objective moral existence, because I don't believe in objective morality, the question question is, why do we think this is the right stance, and where does it come from? And I think that's the hard part to explain to people, because most people do believe there is an objective morality. They think like, oh, we know what's right and wrong. It's obvious what's right and wrong. But the world can be the way it was if there was objective morality, in my opinion, or free will, because then we'd make better decisions, right? Like, you would explain it to me, I would logically get it, and I would make that decision. But obviously something is biologically, not bioessentialist meaning, but like something is obviously waiting for something to click in my head so I can advocate for it fully. And I want to do that. I want to add it into my activism list, not just something I practice, because obviously I think it'd be great for the world if the world didn't eat animals. Obviously, like, it's data-wise good for everything. There's almost like no downside to being vegan. So then the question is, well, why not just do it then? But why does it feel like, I'm waiting for that feel, because logically I'm on board, but that feeling feels inadequate. Like I said, it's like someone saying like, oh, are you this thing? And you're like, I'm not this thing. But also, like, what does that even mean? So I'm just waiting for it to click fully.
I think I can.
Oh,
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think I can help if I'm trying to, like, I'm not inside your brain, obviously, but just the way you explain your brain, I think I can help, because you're talking about, like, objective morality and stuff like that. You have 3 different ethics domains. You have, like, the normative, you have the applied, and then you have the meta ethics, right? So it really doesn't matter about the meta ethic, the objectivity, where's good derived or something like that. You actually meet someone at where they're coming from and see value system.
I think I think your audio is a
it's
little,
applied.
I think it's a little robotic. Can you say that last thing again?
Sorry, I don't know why my internet's taking a poo. So
Probably because the world doesn't want you to talk about veganism. Discord's coming for you.
Probably I've been silenced. True, sorry. Maybe VPM can explain what I'm saying if my connection's
Wait, spaced out, to be honest. What was that?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, objectivity, basically, vegan ethics is an applied ethic, and meta ethics is a different domain, so we don't even need to, like, go there.
Okay, here's the real question. If I told you guys I was vegan, would you believe me? If I said, okay, I'm vegan.
I already think you're vegan.
Same. Can I make a fucked up observation, though? Can I make a fucked up observation?
Yeah.
It would actually be more beneficial to veganize the world if you were saying, no, I'm a meat eater, but here's why veganism is right.
Well, because people don't want to listen to vegans.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
She's not a meat eater. She should,
no, I'm not.
like,
but you guys know that
I'm not even vegan, but blah 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 blah.
No,
blah.
Elle did that video about that guy, and that guy's been showing up on my TikTok who claims he's not a vegan. But I'm like, you're vegan, right? You're pretending not to be a vegan. He's like getting all these people riled up about eating vegan, and I swear he's a secret vegan who's pretending not to be vegan or something.
Are you talking about the person who's like praying and he's like, I hope anyone who abuses animals fucking dies?
No, oh my God.
And then he's saying that, and then everyone in the comments is like, glad to see so many vegans here. So it's like, I don't know if he even is vegan.
I don't know if it's that guy,
but he like hearts the vegan comments and stuff, and it's
that's
like,
so funny.
Maybe they'll listen to him more. I don't know. He's being more brutal, but like, imagine like someone who says, like, imagine they have vegan in their name and they're like, anyone who like exploits animals, I hope they fucking die. Like, can you imagine? God, like, no. So yeah, it's weird who we're willing to listen to.
I will say, I don't know what anyone, I will say that maybe that's a part of what's, I need to go meditate and just ask myself, like, am I vegan? Even if it looks different than how it's being presented in media, because I do like a lot of vegan people. I watch a lot of vegan people, and I've liked a lot of people who do vegan stuff, but it seems like you guys are having just a different experience than my brain is having. And that's why I'm wondering, like, what are you going through that I'm not going through? Like, what is happening for you?
There's such a diversity of vegans, like, vegan, there's a diversity of leftists. Like, there are so many pick-me vegans that are like calling themselves vegan and then like making, like, putting carnists' feelings above like the animals and they're like coddling people way too much, and like there's still vegan. I don't think we need to take away their, like they're vegan.
Is it like a liberal versus leftist card though? Because like I'm a leftist, not a liberal. Like, is that like the
No,
is this the
well,
like leftist is anti-capitalist and liberal is not
yeah,
anti-capitalist?
No, I know the difference. I'm trying to see if that's analogous.
Is there a vegan?
To, like,
Yeah, is there a vegan
versus a I mean,
So
yeah,
I would say
the flexitarians who call themselves vegan
Good
are
example.
probably like liberals. Yeah.
Or centrist, yeah, liberal centrist.
Perhaps, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think that like you don't have to like you're never going to fully align with like what this idea of like the perfect vegan that's in your head, because there's like such a diversity of thought among vegans, and that's a good thing because like it means we're not like
okay. Is being
like
a vegan
cult.
like being a leftist? Like, because I call myself a leftist because I feel like the barrier to entry is really easy. Like,
I think that if you the definition that vegan gays dropped in the chat, like if you agree with that, you're vegan. And
I do agree. I even agree on the Vegan Society website. Like, I agree with the definition. I agree with all of those definitions. But why does it feel like, okay, because I agree. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, I'm down with all of this. I agree with all of this. Why does it feel though like people are having a different? Is this my autism just like being like, or I feel like I'm smart though. I feel like I'm seeing something, but I feel like I'm seeing something in you guys. There's a spirit in you. There's like a conviction in you that I'm like, where is that coming from?
I see it when I hear you talk. I see it.
Really?
Yeah. Brittany, if you are not vegan, then I have not been vegan for like the first 5-8 years of my veganism.
Damn.
I was less vegan than you are right now. So I think that like
I really think it's the first order. Sorry, I was just going to say, sorry, VPM, you can go after me. I was just saying that I really think it's the first order thoughts causing the problem for you. I really do think, but yeah, sorry, VPM.
It could be.
I think it's actually something else. I think it's nostalgia, to be honest, because so I don't know, I'm vegan from trauma. I call it trauma because the realization was falling so hard. I became vegan while eating meat, basically. And the realization of it was so strong that I had this most favorite food in front of me and I just pushed it away, swallowed whatever I had in my mouth and said, that's it, I'm vegan, right? You didn't have that like trauma moment, in my opinion, and it's because probably you got exposed to too much animal exploitation in your life. It's like, I'm not a city folk. I was born on a tiny farm, but I always thought like, I never saw the injustice in it, but I always had like certain feelings about the slaughter that happened in the yard and stuff like that. So like to me, to realize this injustice was like a bomb going off in my head. So if you're expecting for that bomb, I guess we can try to throw shit at you to experience that. But I don't know if you need it. A lot of people just went vegan. Oh, okay, I'm vegan. This is logically follows, so I'm vegan now.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
Sorry. People have, like I was saying, there's a diversity among vegans. Like people have different experiences, like where some vegans think it's absolutely disgusting to eat these very hyper-realistic imitations. Like when I was in New York City with my family, which we're all vegans, so it was a great experience because we got to go to all these vegan restaurants and like share a bunch of food. Anyway, so there's this one place we went to and they had this like salmon that was so, and like these boiled eggs like in the ramen that were so like shocking. Like I had, because you have your taste buds are like connected to memory in a sense.
Sure, definitely.
And I was like, I hadn't eaten egg or salmon in over 10 years. And like when I tasted it, I was like, whoa, like that tastes so familiar. And like it was very realistic, right? And like there are so many vegans that are like disgusted by that food. Like Natalie, my sister-in-law, was like, ew, I can't eat this. This is nasty. And
fair,
like I was like, this is delicious. But like she's not more vegan than me.
Sure.
Because she has that response, right?
Sure.
And like there are vegans who are willing to eat lab-grown meat. I'm not. Like the fact that it's like animal flesh, even though it's lab-grown.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. It's disgusting. But that doesn't mean that the person who is interested is less vegan than me. Like,
Yeah,
you know what
I agree
mean?
with that. No, I think that's so logically sound because someone asked me that when I first started on this journey, I was asked, would I eat lab grown meat? I was like, sure. And now that I'm at this stage, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. Like, I don't think I'm going to do it. Well, it's interesting. The other day I was eating chicken nuggets, vegan chicken nuggets, and I was eating it and I was like, and I looked at it, my partner's like, are you afraid it's chicken? I was like, bro, taste it. It tastes like chicken. And I'm freaking out. And like, he has to taste my food and be like, it's not chicken, bro. And I was like, okay, but it tastes like chicken. It tastes like how I remember chicken. And sometimes I do panic that I picked up the wrong, like, whatever box of chicken nuggets or something. I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, oh, it's not. And then I'm like, so why doesn't everyone just go vegan, bro? It's easy. But then, you know, it's one of those things again where it's not about just what you're eating. Because you're right, there's memories attached. And you're right, maybe I am waiting for this great epiphany to hit. Maybe because I did have a great epiphany on the path that made me feel like, okay, do I need one more? Or maybe I just feel, Chat said it perfectly. I think I'm experiencing imposter syndrome where I feel I don't want to be a fake vegan because that would make me want to die. But also I think it's because I've done this with a lot of on my path. I can see like what I thought I was, but like, I just know with everything I've done politically or activism wise, it's taken so much education to break down the barriers of what I thought I understood about being like not racist or what I understood about anti-racism or what I understood about homophobia. There's so many layers to this process. But if the barrier to entry is truly as simple as animal exploitation, then do I need to feel a way when I talk to my brother and he's showing me his farm? Like, or can I feel a way, but I don't sit there and like drag him by the head? Because I'm telling you right now, like if he told me, like if he did something racist or homophobic, which they do things that are homophobic, especially I call them out. I'm like, don't fucking do that. Like I call people out for their homophobia. Am I supposed to be calling people out for their animal exploitation?
I mean, we're all kind of like in a position where like my ideal self as an anti-racist or, you know, pro-LGBT, whatever, like I'm very vocal online, but then I find myself in situations where like the me, like I wish I had said something. I should have said something, but I didn't because I was in a situation and I was like, damn, I was not being like a good ally in that situation. But like for you can look at that's I keep saying the word situation. In that situation, like where you're like, oh, I should have said something to defend animals, for example, but like that wasn't like the ideal vegan that I am in my head. But like that doesn't mean you're not vegan.
Okay.
Just like it doesn't mean I'm not a trans ally because I like froze in a situation where I should have been
but like
vocal.
I'm not freezing though. I'm very outspoken. I'm very like outspoken as a person. I will not let anything happen in front of me that does not get a face. I think like even maybe it's akin to capitalism. Like if somebody's a capitalist, I'm just like I roll my eyes. I'm like, bro, exploitation, bro, human exploitation. But I don't feel like the same way I feel about racism or homophobia. Like being a capitalist does lead to all these things. It leads to enslavement. It leads to like human trafficking. It leads, but I don't have the. Maybe because I'm not blaming the individual, I'm blaming the system. Oh, wait, clicking. I do separate the individual responsibility from the system responsibility. So if somebody's like, maybe is vegan, I'm anti-vegan the system. I'm anti the system that exploits animals. But maybe I'm not anti the person that engages in animal exploitation to a degree because it's so a part of them. Like I don't fault people. Like, there's something's happening.
I think there's a third bit where it's like not necessarily person or system, and it's just act isolated. So you don't even need to like this is why I try and distinguish between bad person and bad action. I try not to in my videos distinguish whether or not that's a bad person, although sometimes it happens because but like I don't think like the focus should be I don't know if I'm straw manning you by mistake, but I don't think it needs to be like blame the system, blame the person or anything. It can just be that act is bad. Here's the two possible worlds, you know, that Postmortem talks about a lot. Which one would we like to contribute to? Like the possible world A, so it's like, I just think your feelings about it and everything like that, like, I don't think you need to. I'm gonna say you don't need to overthink it, but obviously the brain's gonna brain. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you don't need. That's not the part. It's like, again, it's an applied ethic. You're behaving a certain way. You don't need to feel really anyway. How you engage with the world may tell others how you're feeling, maybe about a thing, but you don't really need to in that moment
So,
feel anything.
Here's the question. Was Alex O'Connor vegan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So this is okay.
Yeah.
This is it then. I keep getting feedback from vegan communities generally that Alex O'Connor was never vegan because if he was really vegan, he couldn't not be vegan. So then I'm like, oh, I don't want to be Alex O'Connor.
That's
That's
Oh, so-
misunderstanding like
yeah.
the human
Ugh.
condition.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's my issue. I don't want to be that. I want to be.
So yeah, I think the problem is there's two camps with how people act, right? And I think it happens more prevalently in veganism because people conflate it with the diet. So they think, oh, they didn't adopt the ethical principle. It is the case that people do adopt an ethic and then they ditch it. You see it like even in like left spaces or someone's left leaning, then they feel like someone's like, oh, you're not left enough, or you've been like bigoted or something like that. And then they do a 180, and it's like, you could talk all day about were they ever left leaning?
Yeah,
Were they ever?
yeah.
Were they? And maybe they weren't, but I don't really, I was going to say I don't at all have access to their mind state. So for me, that's not like even important. And obviously, there are going to be people who go, well, you never thought that anyway. It's like there's a lot of mind reading that happens.
It just feels like religious minded to me, like with Christians who say, well, if you lose your faith, you were never truly Christian. And it's like,
Sure.
no, like I was, not me. I mean, I wasn't very Christian when I was a Christian.
Sure.
But anyways, that's besides the point. There are definitely Christians who are like extremely dedicated and like felt the Holy Spirit and then deconstructed. And so it's like, but with veganism, it breaks your brain a little when people go back, because it's like going from like Christian to atheist, and then it's like how can you go back again?
But
you know what
that's
I mean?
that feedback
It's
on my
just like-
30-day video was that like, Brittany, you can't be vegan for 30 days and go back, but can't you be vegan for 10 years and go back? Is that what you're saying? You can be vegan for 30 days and go back?
I'm saying you can, but it breaks your brain a little, the fact that people do.
I
But like
agree.
clearly,
But like that's what
clearly
I'm.
I actually
do.
would say
Yeah,
I actually would
know.
say something different. I would say when people say, "Oh, I went vegan for 30 days," what they mean is they just like eat plant-based food, generally
Sure.
speaking, right?
Sure.
Nobody who goes vegan for 30 days throws out their liver, right? Like, or like puts their liver away
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
I
like
got
that,
you.
right? Like nobody applies other stuff. I wanted to address actually the imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
which I think is important in my opinion. So I'm non-binary, but I have like a huge imposter syndrome calling myself trans. I very rarely do it, only when like I see like value in it. Am I trans though?
Relatable. Honestly, I'm on the same gender journey where I was like, am I trans? And like, it's so interesting because I feel like I'm waiting for this magical
but-
moment where it's going to click.
I'm not asking rhetorically
Yeah,
though. I'm
yeah.
asking like
Oh, I do think you're trans.
factually,
Yeah.
I am trans.
You are by definition trans.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, same.
I think you're
yeah.
a vegan by definition.
Yeah, and I think I'm trans by definition, but it feels like I'm co-opting a struggle that doesn't feel like mine yet.
No, it feels like fucking stolen valor,
It feels like stolen valor. But I think in my privacy and in my home with my family or like my close friends, like, yeah, I do use those words. I use the words that feel close and safe to me. But in public as a creative, especially as a person whose life is like on camera and they tear me apart and it feels different, that I want to make sure, because I know someone's going to bring it up and I'm going to have to,
I have a question. I have a question for you. So it's kind of similar to like, you're an anti-capitalist, right? Like, if you are, how worried are you that you're going to like get rich and become a landlord? Like, does that worry you?
No, not at this point in my life. No.
It's like, it almost feels like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I'm not worried that I'm one day going to like do that because like it doesn't align with my values. So,
You're right.
like,
I do have a weird thought of like, what if one day I eat a cow? I'm like, well, you don't have, are you going to be
but
forced
I
to eat
think
the
it
cow?
goes back to what Elle was saying about like the intrusive thoughts. It's like you just have like these intrusive thoughts about it that you don't have with the other like and I don't think that I'm not as worried as you are about you going back. Like to me, I feel like you get it.
Yeah.
And like I'm less worried that you would like go back than you are worried, which is interesting because like I don't know you, you know yourself.
Yeah.
I have this problem like every day. I don't know if you can call them intrusive or impulsive, but like literally I'll be walking down the street and I'll be like, you are going to say something so offensive to the person who passes, or you're going to punch them. You're going to punch them. You're going to punch them. You're going to punch. And it's just like, oh my God. And it's just like, I like this from Catherine, like, yeah, you're not going to worry. What if I become a landlord and accumulate all this wealth and have all these assets? And then I'm like, oh, but I want like a second, third, fourth house. And I'm going to rent them out because I'm giving someone housing. I'm giving them something. You know, you're not going to like, and I think, again, it comes back to the normalization of you know, the social norm of, okay, well, you know, that like it doesn't feel like if I put the situation, it's like I said earlier, it's not good to think about like breeding a human into existence and killing them at a fractional lifespan, farming them. And part of that obviously depends how you morally weigh it up, probably value them more, but like it's because it's not a social norm where you are. How many times have you heard in your area someone has been farmed and eaten? It's social norms are doing so much beyond, even though I, you know, the way I am, I have rejected social norms to a degree my whole life. I still understand
For sure
what they're doing and playing a role. And if that's a social norm, I think you may question, will I adhere to the social norm again? Will it become a thing?
Think, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to meditate and ask myself, are you sure you're never going to eat animals again or engage in buying leather or any of these things? And if that is true, then you can say you're vegan, because I think right now I'm on the precipice. I'm just right there on the edge of like, maybe the doubt is coming from a real knowledge of myself that I know that I'm like, well, maybe I would. When I first started going plant-based, I would say that I used to tell the internet like, oh, if my neighbor brought me a plate of food out of a gesture, I would eat it, even if I didn't cook it myself. But now I know I'm not going to do that. I know that's changed for me. I'm not going to eat it, you know?
Well,
yeah.
I just wanted to flag something before I forget. Sorry,
please do it.
I think I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not trying to trigger demand avoidance, but because you have spoken a lot about how you don't want to religiously think,
right? And
I do the same thing. It's like someone says to me, "Would you ever change your mind on this?" I don't turn around, no matter what the topic is, no matter what. Even though I have such high credence, I will not change my mind. You know, will I become homophobic tomorrow? Like, will that happen? Like, I can my credence is so high that won't happen. So I think asking, will I ever be like, will I ever do something homophobic ever again? Even for me as a gay person, that's actually much bigger to ask than to say, is this my view? Do I value animals? Do I want to morally consider them? Do I believe that my view on that will probably remain? Is probably less of an absolute thing, even though I'm so doubtful I'll you know, be suddenly homophobic, turn around and, you know, I don't know, find religion and realize that homophobia is actually based. You know, I'm so doubtful, but if you're someone who doesn't want to like religiously think, then I think saying words like never, even though it is the case, like, it's like in a relationship, if someone said to you, I never want to have sex again.
Yeah.
You know, that may feel a lot scarier than just kind of having discussions as you go. Like, it would for me at least, even though I may not even desire that certain thing, but to be like, oh, never?
Yeah, I wrote, is this my view? Yes. Will I ever? I don't know. It's a question mark. And that question mark makes me hesitate. But I said on stream the other day, like, I can't think of a situation in which I will be anti-women voting. So obviously I would never advocate for that. But I think I can't confidently say that I can't see myself ever eating animals, and that's what's stopping me. And so until it feels just as confident as me saying I'll never advocate for women not to vote, or in a predictable, within reason way, that will make it feel right to me. But I think I just need to meditate on this longer, because meditation to me is really thinking by myself without the world in my ear. What do you really think, Brittany? And I think that my view is we shouldn't exploit animals, period. And that includes like testing for medications, which I think we should figure out how to do that without testing on animals, which is pretty
We
extreme for
already
most
have.
people. Right, perfect. So great. We don't even need to do that. Done. And then it says
Yeah,
like,
it's just not adopted yet to a
Oh,
large degree,
perfect.
but it will in a couple of few years.
so
Yeah.
that's what I want.
My opinion is that once China is dropping like the mandatory testing for cosmetics, and it's going to happen in the next few years, most cosmetics are going to become vegan.
Great. Like
Yeah,
that's
those
good.
things are moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that certain language to certain people, even though functionally, like I very much know in myself, I'll never like if someone said to me, "Look, are you gonna stop being vegan?" Like I just like I know that the word is never, but for some people, something like the word never can create demand avoidance. So that's why I say it.
Well, okay. This is. Can I? Sorry. Finish your thought, Elle. Don't forget it. Go ahead. Go.
No, I was just saying, like, it might not be something that people recognize if they don't get demand avoidant, but like if you say words like "my credence that I'll change my view is so low," it's functionally the same thing. But yeah.
Yeah. There's this thing. I had this philosophical debate once where someone said like, you could stab a baby. I'm telling you right now, I could never stab a baby. Like I could never stab a baby. It's impossible. My body would freeze up. I'm 1,000% sure. And the same way I feel about assault, like I'm never going to murder someone or assault somebody. Like that's not ever going to happen. But I say that in a way that I understand the framework of those things. But it's not to say that I wouldn't kill someone in self-defense. It's to say that I know myself. That's how sure I want to feel about something as important. Because guys, this is a big deal. Like saying you're not for animal exploitation fundamentally changes everything about the world. And it's a big thing to advocate for. So it's very serious to my brain to say like, you're about to make a claim that you are going to fight for, put your reputation for, that is going to fundamentally change 8 billion people's lives. That's a big deal.
Well, yeah, if never's not a word to you, then that's just me being a pedant with language.
Yeah. Well, it's
functionally to me, yeah. But yeah, I think again, it kind of circles back to the you know how you recognize that you are starting to see them as individuals more so.
Right.
It gets to a point. It's like, you know, it's the prioritization. Two things can be true at once. It will become hard for someone to not do something. But then when we then bring in all the consequences involved in a situation, it's like, I don't know how to analogize it. I don't know if you can think of one, VPM, but like, I think, for example, when someone punches someone in the face and they're like, ow, my hand hurts. Like, it's like, yeah, you can recognize maybe that like something bad's happening to them, but you know, to put it into the perspective of what the consequences to the individual who got punched. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, VPN.
A couple of days ago, yeah, no problem. A couple of days ago, I reacted to this homesteader who was like, I'm free ranging my chickens because I saw chickens spacing in a cage. And despite knowing that chickens who are free ranging are more likely to be killed by the predators around, she still opens the cage every day and lets the chickens out and free range because she wants the chickens to experience life fully as the individuals. And she ends that notion with saying, I'm opening the cage every single day, despite the cost to me. Right. So she kind of recognizes that those chickens are individuals with certain traits and certain wants and needs, but then she still sees everything through her own lens. It costs her every time a mink or whatever, or like whoever, like a predator gets a chicken. She doesn't mourn the loss of life in itself. She almost mourns a loss of what she can get from that being. And there's like, in my opinion, like, I would say a contradiction there, like a logical contradiction, a category error for sure. Not sure if a logical contradiction, but a category error. You wanted to send
Please go
give
ahead.
like a certain advice that might be helpful to you. It's helpful to me. Did you hear? Do you know what a life cycle analysis is?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's actually an industrial term, but it can be applied to ethics like beautifully. Life cycle analysis is taking a product and examining every stage of that product, what they call it cradle to grave. So the second the product becomes like from one thing to like the material and then goes into production and then into use and then landfill in the end or whatever, or recycling, wherever it dies, the product dies. I think it's incredibly valuable to look at the life cycle analysis of a life of a cow, for instance, right? Like, and go through each stage of that life and see which parts you have contention with and which parts not so much, and then question those specific parts. Because I feel like you don't have like the whole picture emotionally or logically. So if you look at, you're saying, oh, the separation of a baby from a mother is not good in the dairy industry. What if the baby wasn't taken away? There are like 2 farms on planet Earth that like do this. They don't take the babies away. Would that then be just this exact moment of, oh, the baby stays, and then you move on next? Well, the baby stays, but we still milk the cow, right? And then you go all the way back in this life cycle analysis, and you're saying, well, the cow even has like all of this like excess milk, potentially, not necessarily, by the way, because we like genetically modified those cows, sometimes to the point of monstrosity. Was that point in the life cycle analysis just? Do I have a problem with it? And I do. I think I have a problem with it on a logical level. We've messed with a creature, which I don't necessarily have an issue with if that messing around is for the best interest of the creature. But in this case, it's not for the best interest. It's against the best interest indeed, because a lot of those cows can barely fucking walk. So
Yeah. Okay, I have a question. Is veganism a practice or a belief?
it's an ethical stance that has to be practicable, has to be
Yeah, I
practiced.
think it's
Otherwise,
both.
it's just
I think
meaningless.
it's both.
So it's both. Okay, this is
Because
the
like love
analogy.
is a verb, you know? Like,
Right. Okay, this is how it
and a noun.
feels. It feels like, let's say I went to church every week and I did all the practices and I prayed all the prayers, but I didn't believe in God. People are like, oh my God, Brittany's such a good Catholic. Wow, she's so good at being Catholic. Wow. But in my head, I'm like, I know I don't believe in God. That's where I'm at.
I feel like you do believe the logic though. Like the logic clicks with you. It's just you don't have it. To me, it feels like you don't have the like you're kind of like putting the level of vegan that you would ideally like to be, of like this level 5, like I'm disgusted by the thought of ever eating meat again, like the taste of meat, it grosses me out, like all
Because that's
these
how I understand
things.
all my ethics, though. All of my ethics, like I came to anti-racism, to anti-capitalism in a very detailed, embodied, logical way, but it's so tangibly real for me. Like it's so real, I can talk about it for hours. It's so real. Like it's what I'm sure is the right answer if our goal is X. It's based off
How
of the
much
goal being X.
how much of your community is all of those things versus how much of your community is vegan? Because like if your community is pretty much a bunch of leftist, anti-racist feminists, like that makes sense.
Well,
And
my
then if you
audience grows
don't
with
have a lot of
me.
vegan,
So my audience falls off if I change. So all my life, I've been on the internet for 18 years or whatever. It changes with me. So it's a usually the people who have shared values with me find me. So usually if I go vegan, I'll have more vegans in my audience, right?
right. I mean, I guess like what about your personal like
a personal life?
relationships? Like I feel like I don't know. I think a lot of the reason people, because it sounds like you're afraid of becoming an ex-vegan essentially, and I think a lot of the reason people do is because they lack the community. They don't have like
But then it's
close
not real to
friends and
me. Then
family
that's
and
not real
whatever.
ethics. To me, my ethics have
Mhm.
to come from me. I don't care what the world is doing. I don't care if I'm the one single vegan. I do it because it's right. I don't care
Right.
what anybody is saying. I came out first gay in my family. I have spent my whole life being an activist. I do it no matter who is doing it. So I
I
know,
feel the same way
right?
personally.
So that's how strong I want to be about veganism. I
Mhm.
want to be so fucking sure. I don't care if I'm the one single person who's left. That's how convicted I need to be before I start, one, putting my public persona out, like my public image out, but two, before I can say it with my full chest. Like, I know we've been here for a while and we've talked about me in this way, but to be totally serious, I take ethics very seriously because I'm advocating for something in a subjective existence that there's no reason for us to be good people. The only reason we're good is because we think it's the right thing to do. Here's my argumentation. So I have to really know what I'm arguing and putting my faith. That's why I'm like, how'd you advocate for this thing that you didn't even understand what you were advocating for? Versus I know I'm advocating for what I believe. And when I change, I know why I'm updating my information. So I want it to feel like that. You know, I want to make sure that even if I'm the lone person in the room, I stand my ground. You cannot move me on this ethic because I already know it's right. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, let's test it then.
Yeah.
I think we should test it with a couple of things. How would you respond if you found out that I wasn't vegan anymore?
I would be shocked.
Would you think like that it's kind of like so say for example, we then reconvened and then I'm giving you all these arguments against veganism.
Oh.
Like, would you push back and know what to say?
I think so. I'd be like, Elle, but you advocated for this thing. Like I thought you really believed it. I think I'd be like very confused. I'd be like, but didn't you say this? Like what changed? Like, did you have a change of heart? Like, did something happen? You know, I'd probably ask you a lot of questions.
So the fact you'd ask me loads of questions and disagree with me, doesn't that imply that you have conviction in it and know the argumentation and
Ooh,
ask me questions? Because if I just turned to you tomorrow and I said, oh, I don't like, I'm not going to be, I don't know, I can't think, but like if I just stopped doing something and you didn't like care about it, consider it, or have an argument against it or anything like that, you wouldn't ask me questions really, right? Or
well, I think I'm interested in people's moral consistency. So I'd be more interested in the fact that like you weren't morally consistent. Something must have changed. Like if like I'm pretty sure my parents are going to die Catholic, but if my mom was like, hey, I left the church, I'd be like, what happened? Like something big must have happened. Like you must have something, you know. So I guess I'd be like, why aren't you more, or to be fair, the Christians who are not morally consistent, that's interesting to me. Like, I think from an ethics perspective, I'm looking for consistency backed by data, backed by conviction. I think it should be personally, like people in chat keep saying you're making it about you. Ethics are about me. It is about me because it's coming from me. It's my conviction. So I want to make sure that my conviction of veganism is coming from me first and foremost. Does that make sense?
I understand that. Yeah, I think it's about you to a degree, but I still maintain an ethic where, say, I disappear, like the day I die and can no longer have a view or anything. Like people get thrown off by this when I give it as a hypothetical. I say like, because they're like, oh, people are only valuable because I'm valuable. And so I say, okay, well, the day after you die,
right.
like, does everyone suddenly, like in that world, like, do you think that's everyone who exists after you will lose value?
Right.
For me, the answer is no. So I get it because obviously you're the one having the ethics and the experience, but like in that sense of like value and what would be wrong, I think even after I die, I can't make a judgment after I die, obviously, but when I die, things will go after and they will still have value basically, or there will still be wrongs.
Right. Yeah, I think chat's doing this thing where I'm not reading it too much, but chat said individualism. No, like now I will be a debate queen. Absolutely not right. I'm not thinking individualistically. I'm talking about if collective thought is moving in a collective direction, we have to collectively agree on an ethic. And if we collectively agree on an ethic, there has to be a reason why we came to this ethic. We can't just wake up today and be like, oh, this is wrong. Why is it wrong? And then the question is, if veganism as a label is supposed to be explaining or communicating to people a certain thing, like if basically plant-based should be sufficient for what I'm advocating for. And if it's not, then why do I need the vegan label? If I need the vegan label, what is different from the plant-based label? Except to
I
vegans.
think I don't know if you agree with that. Like, can I just test
Tell
it?
me. Yeah,
so say you've got in the shop, there's an animal tested shampoo and there's one that's not. everything, all else equal, if you pick the animal tested shampoo, are you doing something wrong in your view, in your own view?
Oh yeah, because I'm also cruelty free. So
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like, how do you feel about zoos and circuses that
Bad.
exploit animals?
bad.
Yeah, so there you go.
Well,
That's the reason for the
plant-based
label.
is just like people who eat plant-based.
Right.
That's
But I'm plant-based and cruelty free.
right. So
But
like if you're applying that ethic to other areas outside of a diet, because
it doesn't
plant-based,
explain it. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, because
I
you
mean, I
can
guess it
be
would apply
Mhm.
to like leather and wool and stuff, but
right.
it doesn't really apply to like going to a rodeo or going
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
zoo. Like that doesn't have anything to do with like plant-based. That's like vegan. Like if you're against SeaWorld and
Right.
like zoos
I used
and
to have a pass to
aquariums,
SeaWorld, and then one day I was there and I was like, what am I doing here? And then I never went back.
yeah. That's vegan.
Can I
Like
throw-
you're
Yeah.
more than plant-based if you're avoiding
Okay,
those
but that's
things.
the thing. So if plant-based is one label in a bubble and cruelty-free is another, like you can be a meat eater who's cruelty-free maybe, or maybe you can't. I don't know. But are those two labels together like a Power Ranger become a vegan?
Oh, no,
No.
cruelty-free just means not tested on animals. It doesn't mean not animal exploited. Like, so veganism explains that you're against like exploitation. If it's like a trait adjusted, if you're taking my sort of definition, it's kind of like non-human rights, basically. So how you would engage. So, but if someone was just like, you can't really analogize it in that sense, but it's just like, oh, I'm just not eating these animals. Pigs are a great example because you could still exploit pigs while not eating them because pigs are animal tested. So if you want to morally consider pigs, it's beyond your plate.
I went to the store and I went to go buy like a scrubber for the shower, and my partner was like, "Oh, it's made of pig," and I was like, why is everything made of animal here? It was crazy. It was the pig hair and like some pig elements of the brush. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was
The
like,
gore
gross.
thing,
And I was like,
yeah.
I'm so glad that he caught that because I picked it up. He's like, wait, I think that's made of an animal. And then I learned what a sea sponge was. And I was like, it's an actual animal. He was like, it's an animal from the ocean. I was like, I thought it was just a cute name, like sea sponge. I didn't know it was a real
To be fair,
animal.
sea sponges.
It's not
Sea sponges
sentient,
are
yeah.
very unlikely
not-
sentient.
So
yeah.
wait, can I use a sea
No.
sponge? That feels bad too, though. I
Yeah.
didn't buy it. That felt bad. I was like, I'm not buying this.
I mean, you don't have to, but like the
Yeah.
logical cost is it doesn't like veganism doesn't like. Well, I guess depending on definition, some people would say, well, it's an animal and therefore, but they're just using a heuristic. They're not like engaging with the question. If an
Yeah.
animal is not sentient, it's basically nothing in animalness that requires sentience. Like most animals are sentient, but an animal doesn't have to be sentient. It just has like the ability to be sentient by the type
Wait.
of cells they have.
So do you guys eat oysters? Because I don't eat oysters either.
No, I don't.
I don't eat them
I
because
don't-
they're disgusting. And
Yeah,
I used to
same.
love them. No, I used to
Emetophobe,
love
so-
them. I don't eat them because I think they're alive. They're animals.
Well, they're
alive and they're
likely not
animals, they're not-
sentient.
Not likely
It's-
sentient.
Sentience is
Okay.
very like complicated. Like it's something that Postmortem was telling me about is how some animals could potentially be going in and out of consciousness, which is very
Yeah.
scary.
Okay, but do
So
you guys
basic-
see why I can't own the vegan label? Because right now in my head, I'm thinking the reduction of the harm. And I know veganism isn't a harm reduction philosophy, but I'm thinking don't eat oysters. They're living creatures. They deserve insects deserve the agency to their body. Like don't squish bugs. Like don't do this. Or like try to be a harm reduction. I mean, I do kill silverfish in my bathroom, which is not good. But like, you know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is that why I'm struggling? Because I need to know the rules.
Here's a good example, like with a human rights activist. They
Yeah.
may so say someone is comatose, they may feel like they aren't a good human rights activist if they advocate to pull the plug on that person because there may be the potential that
Sure.
they're like experiencing and that we don't have access because people say, oh, I was still present in that moment. So it's like you could take a view that, okay, well, I'll take a precautionary principle and I'll say no pulling of the plug.
Yeah.
So vegans will take a precautionary principle of no consuming, an animal if we're not like very sure. If you can't give an answer, that's what
I
a
mean,
lot
it's
of
more
vegans
than
will do.
that. For me, it's like even more than that. I think I'm in a community. I, in some way, represent that community. A lot of people in that community are either sure that oysters are sentient, they are, of course, confused, scientifically speaking, or they are unsure if they are or not sentient, which is a fair position to hold. And even though I am pretty convinced that oysters are not sentient, I should respect my community. I should avoid fighting with that community unnecessarily, and therefore I'm not consuming oysters. There's like a quick syllogism there right there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess related to that, like with oysters and there's like a sentience hierarchy of like possible experiences where oysters are likely not sentient, and then there's like certain animals that are like tiny little fish that like there's something going on, but like and then there's insects where it's like you're sentient, but like I don't really know if much is going on. Like, but anyway, I think that Brittany, you are describing like you're like, can I call myself vegan if I'm not fully embodied? I would say by your definition, like I'm not vegan because even though I recognize the logic and I don't like intentionally kill insects and like buy honey, I don't care about bees the way that I care about cows, pigs, and chickens. Like I have more of like a embodied feeling towards cows, pigs and chickens than I do towards like shrimp and like
well,
bugs.
it's
like,
not
I don't
my
feel,
definition.
like, I'm
but I'm getting this feedback from vegans. I'm watching vegan creators debate other non-vegans, and the standard you guys are setting is what I'm going off of. So now
that's what I'm saying is there's no
there is no standard.
Like, there's no like vegan police. There's no vegan like law. It's like
they all fight. Everyone fights
a-
each other. Yeah, I don't even have these discussions we're having now. I don't even entertain like any time because it then becomes let's fight each other rather than like try and focus on like the topics I'd like to speak about. Yeah.
Okay. I think I need to change that because I don't want, because you guys are a small community. So when somebody says they're vegan, everybody's like, this person's vegan, and like it becomes like a thing. And I'm like, if somebody starts like, if I fucking, I don't know, all these people who are on Jubilee and stuff, and all these people start be like, oh, are you vegan? Listen, like, yeah, but like what, I know I'm only hesitant because I'm not hesitant about anything else in my life. Like if someone said like, are you an advocate for LGBT people? I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm queer. Or like, are you an advocate for Black people? Absolutely, bro. Anti-Blackness is global. Like, are you anti-capitalism? Like 100%, bro. Like that's the one thing is like, I know the rules of those bubbles. And I also debate other leftists about their leftism all the time. Like I'm always debating other leftists. Like I'm always arguing. But like, it's an easy, because you know why? It's a political philosophy. There's an aim to it. If veganism is an ethical stance, plus you can make it your activism, then I'm vegan ethically, personally.
But I was just going to say, like, how many conversations have you had about veganism, though? Because it's one thing to listen. Like, most of what I listen to is political, but I don't often have, like, online political debates. So it's, like, one thing to, like, I wouldn't know what to say a lot of the time because I haven't, like, exercised that muscle in my brain. But I know what to say about veganism because that's what I do. Even though I have those values, I have those views, and I think, oh God, I don't know where to like even categorize myself. How many conversations have you like had about veganism, really?
No, not like just these really, like you and well, on my Discord. I mean, we're always talking about it and sharing vegan. We have a vegan agenda thread, and we're always talking about veganism. But it's because we're all trying to figure out like, oh, is this the next evolution of like the leftist politics or the next evolution of our species? And like, it looks like it definitely 100%. But I don't like the way that chat's like, oh, this is like coming from ego or this is ego. I don't know how to explain to people like, when you are making an ethical stance, like again, if you are aiming to make it a prescription, if you're aiming to put a label on someone, they're adhering to a certain criteria. And I'm saying if the criteria and the barrier to veganism is as low as your anti-animal exploitation, most people are vegan. Because most people with a microphone to their phone would say, I'm anti-animal exploitation. So there must be a standard. Right. So the practice part.
The thing is, like, that's why I made my video about defending bad vegans, is because like there's a spectrum of like egregiousness, okay?
Sure.
And like there are certain behaviors, like if you eat a steak, like, and call yourself vegan, like you're obviously not vegan. But if you eat something that has like milk powder in it and you're like, well, what a oopsie, it's like, no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
vegan, but like it's not the same level of egregious. And I think that to hold veganism as this like I think that you're kind of viewing it as like this, you have to be like this pure vegan to call yourself vegan. I don't think that. I think that with other movements, like if you look at, you were saying you feel fully embodied in your anti-racism and your anti-homophobia, whatever. Are there not things like in those communities, are there not things that you like disagree? Like, because there are instances where I'm listening to someone talk about, like there are disagreements within those communities, but they're both still anti-racist. Like there are anti-racist thought leaders who view like, they have like disagreements on like certain minutia, but like they're not like, you cannot call yourself anti-racist unless you're like this form of anti-racist, like this level of like you know what I'm saying?
Yes, but that's I'm that person.
So
I'm the person with the standard who says you can't call yourself Catholic. You don't go to church enough. You can't call yourself Muslim. You eat pork. You can't call yourself this. I don't want to hear you own a label you're not adhering to. So I am that person a bit. So what I'm saying is like,
but not maybe like you recognize there's a difference though in when it comes to certain like along the line, along the spectrum, there is a point where you're allowing room for disagreement to call yourself something, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, what I say is in my bubble, when I say anti-leftist, this is what I mean by the anti-leftist. Well, so like there was a girl that I watch all the time who I usually like, but I've recently been like, she's not an anti-capitalist. And everyone's like, she doesn't have to be just because she owns a house or she does this. I'm like, but this is an anti-capitalist philosophy. Anti-capitalist philosophy has to be in action and embodied. She's not embodying it. So to me, she's not anti-capitalism, right? To me. And I'm saying that is how I talk about like the movement we are creating says, here's the line and here's what I expect to come out of your mouth because you say you're this. If I see another leftist go, I'm anti-capitalist, but then they're not anti-white supremacy, I go, ooh, your anti-capitalism isn't good enough. And I
what
go,
what if somebody is like I'm trying to think of okay, so the trans like LGBT topic, right? I think that there's a difference between being like saying something like overtly transphobic versus being like, I'm confused about neo-pronouns. Like, I don't understand when people use like whatever xenogender or whatever. It's like, I feel like you can be confused about that and like not be like anti-trans.
Yeah. Well, I would say you asking that question means you haven't deconstructed this deep understanding about gender or transness or existing in a space.
Yeah, perhaps.
Because again, labels are meant for communication. So even if in my home I'm deconstructing, when I show up in public, it matters. So like the biphobia conversations that are happening where straight women are saying, I don't want to date bi men, they're gay. And I'm like, that's not what bisexual means. Like, yes, we're all gay, but like, we're not like only interested. Like, you know, that conversation's a good one where they'll say, no, I'm pro LGBTQ, but you're not. You might be pro them legally, like policy wise, but you are actively engaging in homophobia, biphobia. Like,
well,
can I just cut in?
Different trans people who disagree on like certain. I'm trying to find an example. Maybe this is a bad example, and you're right.
Go ahead, Elle, and then I'll expand on it.
My office is very tiny, and my fan is doing nothing. I'm like overheating to a point where I don't feel very well.
Oh no!
So I might have to like drop off that's why my camera turned off. Right. It was so hot. So do you want to carry on and I'll just drop off? Like,
sure, maybe you can
have to go.
Yeah, we've been here a while. I really appreciate it. No, I really appreciate it. And I know it's really steaming without the AC. So like we can also do this again sometime, or we can talk one-on-one or whatever else. But I just want to say, like, yeah, for me, there's always a more left position, an always more correct position, and I'm aiming for that. I want to get to the most truth. So I don't believe in stagnation. So my veganism won't be stagnant either. If I become a vegan, I'm assuming there's a better way to be a vegan later. I don't want to be just like a basic vegan. I don't want to be a basic pro-gay. I don't believe in it, because if we start deconstructing, if science gets better, there will always be a better way to incorporate new science into our ethics. So that's what I'm thinking of, is like, I want to make sure that I understand the requirement of owning the word, because it's a responsibility. And then I want to make sure that I keep deconstructing even further into my veganism, even further into my anti-racism. I'm reading all the time, updating all the time.
So basically what I'm hearing is you feel like you have to be fully deconstructed vegan to call yourself vegan. I think that you can call yourself vegan now, recognizing that you have further deconstruction to do.
Okay. I'm open to this. I think this is fair. If this is a basic requirement that's allowed, then I can communicate to people, I'm a baby vegan.
Yeah. And I can say the same. Like maybe I used some bad examples about gender. Like I'm not fully
it was great.
deconstructed. I don't know.
It was great.
I'm just trying to like find.
I think a good one. Sorry, my brain's not working, so maybe this isn't working. But like when people have come out and like as gay, and they've said, "Oh, I'm a baby gay."
Yeah,
so they're still gay. They're just like
For
working
sure.
out where they're at and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to go. My brain is like sludge
we
right
can wrap
now.
up. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you very much. I really
appreciate it. I'll
it.
link
And
everyone's channels in the description and everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
I'm
one.
gonna message you my new channel that you should like.
Oh, perfectly. Perfect. VPM, do you want to say anything though? No rush.
Yeah, by the way, I'm hot as hell, but I can still like survive another 10 minutes if the chat
Perfect.
has questions, if
I
I can
gotta
answer your
pee.
questions.
Yeah. Go.
Thank
We'll
you so
talk
much for
later.
having me on.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, if the chat has
To be honest,
questions.
it's a miracle that I didn't need to pee so far. So
I have
let's
to pee, but
hold
I'm
that
ignoring
miracle.
it. We can start closing up. But I think like this has helped immensely, and I appreciate it so much. And I do think that ultimately, I just want to make sure that I think baby vegan honestly is the most comfortable I felt the whole time. That makes me feel much more comfortable, because I do think people come to me for. They assume I know what I'm talking about. And I take such a responsibility in being a vocal advocate in my work. And I would hate for someone to come to me and expect me to have the level of vegan understanding that so then it feels like a personal journey rather than an advocate journey. But the moment I call myself a vegan, now the requirement will be, hey, Britt, can I ask you about vegan ethics? And I'm like, ooh, I think there are better people for you to talk to about that, which would be better. But then at the same time, if I'm going to call myself a vegan, I better be able to advocate for it. So maybe saying I'm a baby vegan, I'm just starting out. I definitely agree with these points. And I'm still learning how to advocate for it in a more confident way, maybe.
But there is like a difference between a vegan who obviously like has an ethic and then practice that ethic, and a vegan activist, which is like,
True.
basically level 5, level 10, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so there is some progression. I was a vegan. I was what Catherine describes as a perfect vegan, because there is a shitload of things that I didn't know at the beginning. I was using the heuristic no animals, which again, I support that heuristic for most people, because for most people, the nuance of sentience is too much. I, for instance, don't necessarily mind too much secondhand leather, but I threw out all of my secondhand leather, didn't throw it out in the bin. I put it outside, people picked it up, because I find that the nuance of talking to people about secondhand leather is too much to deal with. And it's not talking about the real thing. It's a running away from it, Yeah. And so I find the heuristic of don't exploit animals incredibly useful in most cases. So if you want to deconstruct things, more power to you, but that would make you a vegan activist. And that's like a progress from vegan.
Well, I think, and I think so I'm definitely on it's personal right now, but I think because activism is just so part of me and my brand and what I do is why I wake up every day, it would naturally become a part of my channel. I would be like Brittany's vegan debate Brittany, or talk to Brittany, or have a discussion with Brittany. Like maybe non-vegans would, I want to do a call-in show maybe, because I'm so inspired by the way you guys do call-in shows. that means people would call me and talk about veganism. And I take it, like, I do think life is so serious. Like, I just think everything is so serious. Billions of people are being exploited. Billions of animals are being exploited. It just feels like I want to be so serious about when I show up philosophically, because we are vessels for communication. And if I'm going to be a vessel for that communication, I want to be a good vessel. Like, nothing's worse than watching someone on your side debate wrong. You're just like, did you know? And so I just want to make sure that I'm at least understanding. And I see all these vegans, they're so good. Like, everyone is so good at knowing why they're there. It seems so clear to me that you guys know why you're there. Like, even Elle choosing to specifically talk about veganism and not being gay or not being anything, like, that matters to her. Like, that must have been very special that was the decision they made to make that their advocacy. And I make everything my advocacy. Like, every topic that's important to me becomes my advocacy. So I just know this is going to be very important, you know?
Yeah. Guys, chat, if you have questions, this is the time. Let's go. I'm a level 10 vegan. I'm joking, of course. I still have a lot of things to deconstruct myself as well. But if you have questions, let's go.
Yeah, do you guys have questions? Also, I saw my Nightbot banned Elle. Hold on. I made the restrictions.
no.
I made my restrictions on my mod too intense. Let me change my settings, guys. Hold on. Let me change my settings. Hilarious. I'm literally dead. I'm so sorry. Okay, the change should now happen. I'm sorry. I made the mod too strict. Elle got in trouble. I'm sorry. Here, I changed it. It should be better now. It should be more lenient. Okay. Does anybody have a question about anything we talked about? And I appreciate, I couldn't see you quite as much. Like, I can't multitask too well. So I tried to make sure to focus on the convo I was having. Yeah, chat said it's just so hard because there's so many different usages of labels, and maybe you have something you have to work through to get to that point, especially when you've never saw yourself being something else. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Maybe this is the autism too, is like, I take it very seriously when people label themselves something because it means something. You must have come to that for a reason. And look, when I was younger, I was dating a vegan. And I was like, oh my God, veganism sounds so cool. But I thought it sounded like hip more than serious. And I never could do it. And that's because I'm really having like a profound inner experience right now where, like, I am seeing the world so differently now. It really is a bubble pop. I'm so serious about valuing non-human animals that it feels very serious to me that, like, oh, I'm having this realization. But because of the seriousness, I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly.
I commend you for that. That's totally valid.
Thank
To be
you.
honest.
Thank you. I mean, trying, right? Chess said, is sentience a fair assessment for veganism? Yes, right? Like, sentience is the part that makes it vegan. Like, that's the point about the oysters.
I don't know if assessment is the right word. I would say the threshold. So it's just like a huge ethical threshold altogether. And some people would say, well, that's not veganism. Fuck those people, frankly. They would say that's sentientism, which there is like a fair point. But in order to be morally relevant at all, one needs to be sentient. Because otherwise that's like we're comparing like things to beings. And yeah, that's why, like, even though, like, if you hold the heuristic of animalness is the thing that you should morally value, you would need to, like, go down the chain explaining why are we valuing animals. And if you ask that question, most people will cash it out into experiencing life, having emotions, having like their own ends, having like their own goals, and like wants and needs and stuff like that. And there's just like some animals just don't possess that. And plants definitely don't possess that. They just don't have the biological structures for that. And other objects like minerals, rocks, and so forth, definitely not.
What about medication? Chat's asking, like, any tips about meds? A lot of them are tested on animals, but what if we don't have options? What's your guys' solution for that?
Well, I take, so I'm incredibly allergic. That's why I have like tint under my eyes, for instance. I have like allergic rhinitis. I've put so many things up my nose that were like tested on animals just the past year. I can't even count it. There is like two issues there, like not issues, but two things to consider. Consideration number one, does that using that medicine increase the rights violations? It's not incredibly clear. I come on the side of no. It doesn't increase the rights violations to use a medicine because the exploitation happened, and you buying the medicine could actually even prevent more rights violations, because if the medicine is popular, then you continue using it, and therefore the companies are not going to be looking, the companies, the universities, whatever, are not going to be looking for a different medicine for the same thing, right? I don't know, my credence in that is the other thing to consider is, as you said, there is no alternative at the moment, but trust that a lot of vegans are working on this issue, including a lot of companies that are producing the alternatives to animal testing, like organ on chip, organoids, microfluidic systems, stuff like that, like computation. And a lot of animal testing happens due to almost tradition or lack of budget to move on. It's actually more expensive to exploit animals for medical testing than it would be to move on to the next thing, but the first investment is really high.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Actually, the US is working right now on ending animal testing, which is
amazing,
weird. But
yeah, that's kind of interesting.
It's amazing, but it's weird that it's coming from Republicans. I think it's coming from the point of just how wasteful that thing is, like the animal exploitation. But if that happens, again, as I said, if China changes their mind on a mandatory testing, that's all cosmetics, or most cosmetics, not going to continue exploiting animals for that. Right. And in medicine, they just need to move on. Do the thing, just change.
Just do it. Yeah.
Then,
well, Chad said that was very helpful, which is good. It almost sounds like no ethical consumption under capitalism. It's not for people in privilege to do better. It's when you really have your hands tied, you do the best you can. But the goal is all my supplements I take obviously are vegan, but there are the same supplements I take, I have to make sure I grab the vegan ones, because I could accidentally grab the non-vegan ones and stuff like that. For me, it's all about as many ways as possible buying vegan. Even the mousse I just recently bought for my hair, I made sure it was vegan, and just grabbing as many vegan products as I can. And if it doesn't say vegan, to make sure I'm using my Google Translate, because I live in Croatia, to make sure that it's not having anything in there. And then to research, because a while back I bought a cocoa cookie crisp. And I was like, how is this not vegan? What's not vegan in this cereal? And I was eating it. I was Googling while I was eating it. I was like, oh, it's the vitamins, the fucking vitamins, stuff I don't even think about. Because I'm sitting here reading the label, I don't see anything.
Which one?
I don't remember. They said it was, I think it was from sheep or something. Probably a D something. D3. And I was like, what? And so stuff like that I'm figuring out as I go along. Okay, even if the label doesn't have anything that stands out to me, I have to be very cognizant of that. But I finished the box of cereal. Okay. And I was like, I bought it already, I'm going to eat it. But that's the thing it is what it is. But that's the kind of stuff that I think is, the barrier to entry can seem difficult, but I do think it's helped me just to say, as many things as I put into my mouth, just consider that they should be vegan first and foremost.
I would like to add just a little thing. This is where a person should be incredibly frank with themselves and with the outside world. We are bias machines, definitely. We are excuse machines.
Yes.
And I think actually some of the ex-vegans, that's where they found themselves in. They succumb to their lack of conscientiousness once, and then they just went, fuck it.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to do that ever.
But here's the thing. Everybody has lack of conscientiousness moments. The thing that you can do is reduce those lack of conscientiousness moments.
Yeah.
But also, once you had this lack of conscientiousness moment, just fucking forgive yourself and move on. And continue being vegan, continue practice veganism.
Yeah, I agree with that with everything that I do. Is we will have moments. That's why I say you did a instead of you are. It's you will have moments of engaging in ableism or engaging, and you're oh, catch myself. Let me go back. Okay, move on. We're not trying to punish you. I'm not trying to shame you or blame you. I'm trying to advocate for a world that says let me try better. Let me try to be less bad instead of more good. I'm just trying to be less bad. And start from there. VPM, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
Okay.
Are we ending the call?
Yeah, let's end it.
All right,
Let's go ahead
awesome.
because now I really got to pee. It's been 3 hours.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you for being here.
You.
We'll talk soon, I'm sure. Bye-bye. I want you to know, I do want to say something to my audience. Okay. Hold on, I'm too high up. Boop, 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 boop. I do want to say something to my audience. I take so seriously that you spend your mornings with me, that you are learning from me, that I am a person with the microphone, and I just take so seriously that should mean something. And I, like you, am sick of seeing creators and people on this fucking platform just be so unserious about their ethics. And so know that today's conversation was me attempting to be completely honest and transparent. I'm not trying to be hard-headed. I'm not trying to deny myself the label or responsibility of vegan. I am trying to say I take it so seriously. Allow me a hesitation to own a label that's going to impact billions of lives. You know, it's not a joke to me. It's so fucking serious. And I want you to trust me that if I own a label or I advocate for something, I mean it in my heart of hearts, that it's so embodied in my body that I will never betray it no matter how hard life gets. Because listen to me right now, this economy is so hard that even people who said, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not homophobic, all of a sudden they're pretty racist and homophobic when they can't pay their bills. You ever notice that all of a sudden they hate minorities when their bills get too expensive? You never want to be these people. These people are verbally anti-racist, verbally anti-ICE. The moment they get stressed, the moment their politic, gets tested, the moment their taxes are too high, now they hate immigrants. And I'm saying I never want to be that person. I never want to get out here and earn your trust and say and put my name to something I don't believe in. Okay? So let me tell you this. I think out of all this conversation that happened, which was beautiful, I definitely resonate with Baby Vegan, in a big way. And I think that's the most comfortable I felt through the whole conversation, where it feels like I'm allowing myself a chance to say like, hey, I think I'm like a baby vegan. I really like that. I think I'm going to sit with that one and meditate on it. It allows me a chance to also say that I know something is right, but I don't know exactly how to wait for everything to embody and click. But I really appreciate the time that everybody took out of their day to come talk to me today, because it helped. It really helped. And I want them to know that. But I also want you to know, as an audience member, I mean, a lot of you give me money. I'm like 40% fan funded. And I need you to know that I don't take that lightly. Like, I know money is the way we advocate. And I want you to know that you're giving your money to someone who stands on principle and stands on something they believe in, especially when it comes to something that, like I said, it's going to impact so many people's lives. So thank you for your trust. And I hope that this conversation has reassured in you that I take everything very seriously. And, I hope to continue deconstructing in front of you and in private. And I hope that you're here for my coming out. Because I have a feeling I probably am going to come out as a vegan, right? I feel very close to it. I feel very inspired by it. I just want to make sure that I understand the responsibility of it. I do. With that said, I will, when I post this, I'll post it as a video as well, but I'll link everybody's socials in the description and everything. And I just, once again, thank you to everyone who took time out of their day. I would love to have them on again and continue this conversation. And maybe when I come out, they can throw me a vegan birthday party. Okay, Chess, that's great. I've never felt so compelled to give money to a channel before. You're the first person on all my years watching YouTube who I just clicked with. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for being here, guys. It means so much. It makes such a difference. Like the stream, it goes a long way. Vegan Gays, thank you for being here. VPM, Catherine, thank you so much. It just means so much. Like, what a great way to end our week and start our weekend. Guys, take care of yourselves. And I'm not just saying that. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it. Take care of your loved ones. Take care of everybody around you, and be a little less bad. Be a little less bad as much as you can, regardless of the label that you use. Be less bad.